packed where there'd be like one seat up there, another seat down here, and so you guys would have to sit separately, and it was a little fucked up.
Yeah, at least now you can decide right away. You can see, oh, look, are those seats going to even, are there any seats where we could sit together? If not, then we can already call that one and just try
Yeah.
to catch a later showing or something like that. But
The younger generation, they don't know how good they have it
they
because man,
really don't.
it was unruly back then. Like you would just show up and people would be like, "Oh, these seats are taken," but like no one was there. They just didn't want anyone sitting like
Right.
3 seats next to them.
Right. That's the only place like like out in public where you would see multiple seats being saved and people were just using purses and, their jackets, any extra scarves and shit, just like dragging it
Yep.
all across them like these are marked. But now it's like, no, I chose that. Oh, dude, so convenient. It's ridiculous. And the fact that it kind of all really, really reached like that sort of tipping point when it reached iPhones or touchscreen phones where you could actually surf the web and then you could choose the seats on your screen. Because I'm pretty sure that technology existed beforehand where you could buy the seats. But I mean, that'd be interesting to know, actually. I don't know if what came first, the chicken or the egg.
Right. I was actually going to ask you, do you remember when you actually got to reserve a seat for the first time and you're just like, "Holy shit, this is the way it should have been the entire time."
Damn. I'm going to say that was, I think that was actually the ArcLight Theater out in Pasadena. Kind of blew my mind. Because even the Cinema Star, I think that was up until then one of the nicest theaters I'd ever been in before. And I say that because it was not only, it had these pilot seats or bucket seats. I don't know. Each of the seats was really they were so well made. It was really, really nice and high backs. And anyway, that and
I think you guys each had your own armrest, which that also wasn't a thing. People had to share armrests back in the day, and
oh,
yeah, they try to
right.
cram as many people as they could in those screens.
Yeah, exactly. Now they just do more of the showings and, fewer chairs.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah, I think the first time I had ever experienced it was IPIC, Pasadena.
oh, also Pasadena.
As far as I've known, iPic has always done that. I don't ever remember them where you just show up and like grab a seat. It's always kind of like reservations only or preferred, I should say.
Yeah, because you choose your pod and everything, right?
Yeah, because everything's kind of separated into twos. So even if you show up with a party of four, like it'd be two people share one tray, and then it's like these two next to your right, would share their own tray. It's like a little central tray where you can place your food.
Oh,
Oh man, still to this day, I think it's probably the most premium movie going experience that I've been to because you got these
whoa.
like suede seats that can recline all the way, not like slanted.
Hmm.
These things go all the way the fuck back. They're really comfortable. You got little, I guess, like compartments in the armrest. Girls can put their purses or whatever in there. There's also blankets in there, which are nice and soft. Pillows. They give you complimentary popcorn. That was the first time I had ever seen a dine-in theater. When you take the escalators down, it feels like a little exclusive nightclub down there. It's like a little lounge area,
Mm,
and they will
cool.
escort you to your seats. And yeah, it's all about that customer experience. But
Nice,
also at the
nice.
same time, the tickets are like 25-30 bucks per person, so
Yeah,
it's
that's
kind of
right.
pricey.
Yeah, yeah. It's so funny. All those years I lived and worked out there. I like quite literally across the street. In fact,
Hmm.
I never went. I never went. I was always
It's
like,
a nice
nah.
area. It's ritzy.
And the arc light was just down the way. So
Hmm.
I was like, I'm gonna get a pretty good bang for my buck, but I would love to. I gotta take Easton to go see one there. It would be so cool to have that experience together.
That's one of those situations where you show up an hour early to the movie because you can just fucking hang out, grab some drinks
Yeah,
beforehand, and
yeah.
chill, and then they'll let you know when it's time to go sit down and watch the movie.
That sounds really cool. Yeah. I know ArcLight allowed you. They had like little mini bars tucked away in the theater area, so like you could just chill in this little nook
Like
that
down the
was kind of
hallways.
cut out in the wall. Yeah, it was so huge. You could just walk down the hall, and where the theaters were, suddenly you could just see like you would see one big room, kind of with
Hmm.
black drapes drawn or something like that, pulled back, and you're like, "What's this big space?" And you walk in there, and there's a bartender there, and it's Lloyd. And he's like, hello. No, I'm just kidding.
Lloyd, take your medicine. Are we mobbing it?
You know it.
How you doing, everybody? Welcome to Afflictionados Podcast, episode 38. Available wherever you get your podcasts. New episodes drop on the first Saturday of each month, 5 a.m. Pacific. Find us on YouTube at Afflictionados Podcast. If you enjoy our content, please consider giving us a like or subscribe, or both. Our merch store link can be found in the descriptions of our episodes. My name is Eric, and the other voice occupying your head this time is a man of many trades, philosopher, charmer, my good friend, colleague, son, brother, and co-host, Michael.
Hey.
Here on Afflictionados Podcast, we mainly talk about films that range from mind-numbing to mind-blowing. We also cover TV shows and other forms of media. Of course, we will be getting into spoilers here, and there will be only the healthiest amount of expletives tossed in. You have been warned. If you ain't ready, then get ready, because in this episode, we'll be discussing the highly anticipated science fiction epic blockbuster sequel, Dune Part 2,
Boom.
released this year, 2024, directed by Denis Villeneuve.
Damn, much anticipated.
Very much so. And you know, this was actually more your idea to tackle some of these more recent movies. When we did our year-end recap, you were saying how you wished we could have kind of done episodes closer to release dates of modern movies. And so, yeah, this is, I think, our first one this year. And we're super excited for this one. You know, ever since December of last year, we've been waiting for this movie. Not to say that 2001: A Space Odyssey wasn't a great movie in and of itself,
Sure.
but that was originally slated for Dune Part 2 until it got pushed back till March.
Yeah.
So here we are.
A happy accident.
That's right. Just like me. Obviously, this is the sequel to Denis' first Dune film, released in 2021. This also covers the second half of the first Dune novel, written by Frank Herbert. And as of this recording, the movie has already made about 600 mil at the box office and still has plenty of steam. That thing is probably, honestly, it might get pretty damn close to $1 billion when it's all said and done. Who knows?
Holy shit, dude. Holy shit. His and Zendaya's star power definitely grabs that the younger demographic as well. But like this spans, I mean, it just grabs everybody, and it's oh my gosh. So well told, such a huge epic. It's crazy that this is happening in our lifetime. It's like the Ben-Hur or the 10 commandments of the past, you know what I mean? Of this year, or rather of now.
You know, I wonder when the David Lynch movie came out, we were watching the clip of that earlier today. I wonder if at that time Dune was considered a novel that just could not be translated into a live action film. And then David Lynch was like,
hold my beer.
Hold my Black Lodge ring.
Hold my Black Lodge ring. Hold my cherry pie.
Damn good cherry pie.
Hold my double R cup of coffee.
I still feel like, even watching the clips earlier today, I felt like a lot of the CGI was fucking top notch, and it's still pretty impressive by today's standards. And to think that this was done back in, was it like the early 80s or whatever, whenever it came out? Insane. That movie must have blown people's minds. But I feel like it was probably also a victim of almost a similar situation to Tron when that movie came out. I felt like it was a lot of these concepts that people just couldn't grasp at that time.
Right.
And then with Dune, this is a sci-fi story that's just, it's kind of out there. If you've ever read the books, I haven't personally, but I've done some deep dives into certain aspects of the story, and it gets fucking weird, man. Let me just say, the Guild Navigators were left out of the Denis films, and I wonder if there's a reason for that, because if you ever read about the Guild Navigators, those are fucking trippy. The concept of them and what they're supposed to look like.
Oh, snap.
That's straight up what it looked like in the David Lynch film, and it was pretty unsettling. I wonder why Denis felt like he wanted to leave it out.
What purpose do they serve?
They are the ones that allow people to travel through space. So they're the ones that kind of bend.
Oh, we
time
haven't
and
even
space.
gotten into that.
No.
Oh.
Well, technically we should have, because when the Atreides leave Caladan to go to Arrakis, that ship is controlled by a Guild Navigator, but we just never see it. We see the ship. Do you remember the ship? It kind of looks like a worm in space.
Yes, okay.
That would have been controlled by a Guild Navigator. they're the only ones that can kind of see all these paths through space, and then they can figure out where the direct path is and send you there. That's kind of their purpose. They're
Wow.
hired to do this.
I see.
All that is in the book because they're like held in this like spice gas chamber thing at all times. Their human attributes start kind of atrophying, and they almost start turning into like this like weird space fish man type of character.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, okay. I looked it up. It says artificially super evolved humans.
Yep. And this is through a lot of exposure, a ton of exposure to the spice melange.
Melange. I like that. I'm tempted to read them.
Oh, are you? I know John is reading them for sure.
Oh, he is tight.
This movie, the sequel, picks up pretty much right where the first movie left off. I would say within like an hour of where the last movie ended. Paul Atreides, played by Timothy Chalamet, of course. His mother, Lady Jessica, played by Rebecca Ferguson. They're still traveling with the Fremen troop, led by Stilgar, played by Javier Bardem.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And when we say it picks up right where they left off, it doesn't seem like they traveled very far, and they're already being hunted by more of the Harkonnen. They're kind of hiding from them, hoping to not be spotted.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So the body that was wrapped up, that was the guy that Paul killed in order to earn their trust or whatever, or earn their respect.
Yeah, that's how recent. That's how bookended that was.
Mm-hmm.
Right, from the first Dune to this one.
Right, exactly. That was trippy too because it seemed like he was supposed to lose that fight. Remember when he originally had that
Yeah.
vision in the first movie? He
Yeah.
lost to that guy, and then when he actually got to that point in reality, he was like, "Nah, fuck that," and he killed that guy. I was wondering how that was going to alter things going forward.
Right, and I think that you're onto something there as well. I think there's a foreshadowing in his foreshadowing of the fact that that didn't happen the way that exactly that he thought it would play out, where he thought he would die. I mean, how much worse could it get than that? Think about that. How much worse can it get than millions of people, what do you call it? Just why isn't the word coming to me? Starving or just dying from thirst because of him.
Oh yeah,
So I almost feel like that is sort of foreshadowing the fact that later on that this what terrible thing you might think is going to happen may not happen exactly the way that you think it will.
right, right. And this is also important to note that we get to see much more of the anticipated character in Chani, played by Zendaya.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Basically only in flashbacks in the first movie, but she actually gets to be in this entire movie. So that's definitely a plus
Yeah.
because, big fan of hers after Euphoria.
Same.
Haven't seen
Yeah,
Euphoria.
absolutely. Mm-hmm.
I get these pronunciations from going through like Dune wikis and forums and stuff like that. And so I think in the first recording, I said that Chani's name was pronounced Chani, that's how people kind of described it on those sites. But in the movie, they say Chani, so I'll just go with that. I'm not going to try to change it.
Mm-hmm.
We also discover that Lady Jessica is pregnant. And at first, I was like, when the fuck did that happen? But I forgot that the entire first movie kind of takes place within like a couple weeks. So it's not very
Mm-hmm.
long. It seems like
No, right.
it spans quite a while. But when you think of it overall, it really doesn't take that much time from when we see Duke Leto to when he gets killed to, where we are now. And so we find out that Jessica's pregnant with Duke Leto's child. We will soon find out that Paul is going to be having a sister. But as of right now, she's experiencing morning sickness. And what I liked about this was that, one, the Fremen people have this weird kind of procedure where they don't waste fluids, like bodily fluids. So when their people get killed, or if they kill enemies, they will dehydrate their bodies and take it with them, which I thought was kind of interesting.
Yeah, that is interesting. I mean, I wonder what they do with the water from those people, because I'd imagine they wouldn't want to mix it with the souls of the water from their of their kind.
Oh, yeah, they actually explain that. So in the movie, they say that the Harkonnen blood is tainted. I don't know if that's just like a religious belief or if there's actually something that they do to kind of, I don't know, like maybe like infuse their bodies and give themselves like different attributes or something. But They say they only use the liquid from the Harkonnen to fuel the temperature or whatever, like the radiator aspect of their suits. Put the liquid into their suits to replenish that.
Ah, I see.
So yeah, they definitely don't like drink that or like take it back with them. They only do that for the Fremen people because they are more pure. But that process is kind of what triggers the sickness in Jessica. So I thought that was kind of funny because when their bodies are kind of like shriveling up, like you're vacuum sealing them, she's just like, huh.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Stokar's getting pissed at her. Yeah, he's just like, don't
Yeah.
you fucking throw up. I thought that was kind of
Yeah,
funny.
it's like precious.
But it makes sense.
Like not even because in their mind, yeah, exactly. Even in their world, I should say, tears are even a waste.
Yeah.
You have to conserve your water. It's so precious, such a precious resource.
It's kind of sad in a way because I feel like they're conditioned and kind of desensitized to losing their own people. So that's why they're saying like, don't even cry for our fallen Fremen people because that's such a waste of a valuable resource.
And it's all too common. Like they still get close to one another. They all still seem like a family, but it's just survive. Your survival is more important.
It's so important just being on Arrakis. It's so void of moisture in and of itself. So it's like you have to really preserve it any way you can.
Right.
I think as a diversion, someone sets up a thumper nearby. I actually don't know what the term of these devices are, but you know what I'm talking about. The things that call the worms. So it doesn't seem like it's either an area that's populated by worms or maybe it's not far enough in the sand to like send the signal. No worms show up, but it's enough to get the Harkonnen to kind of second guess where they are. So they're like, oh shit, let's get to higher ground. So that's when they like float up with their little devices.
Yeah, exactly. And I didn't even know that they all had that ability as well.
Yeah, it's kind of
cool.
You
have Hans Zimmer's music just killing it, and it's just like
always
creepy. Yeah. Oh, and they're ascending, and you're just like, they have so much power.
It's not like there's like a jetpack. They don't just propel up. They just float up gently and they float down gently. And I kind of like that effect.
Yeah, exactly. It's like this slow ascendance.
But unfortunately for them, when they get to that top of the rock, I think that was what the Fremen people were hoping for because it left them wide open. They're sitting ducks up there. And so someone was sniping them. They just start dropping like flies.
They forgot to say sniper, no sniping, dude.
Right, exactly. Dude, we agreed. No sniping, bro.
Dude, no sniping, bro. Don't snipe me, bro.
Who just sniped me, bro? Where did that even come from? I don't even know the origin of that clip.
That clip is Ryan just showing this dude. It's like, yeah, who shitted on me, bro?
Because it's essentially just like some random guy that's sleeping and someone walks up and like farts in his face or something, right?
Yeah, you hear it, and the camera's so close to the situation that you hear it on camera, and as soon as you hear it, all of a sudden the dude just like wakes up from a cold dead sleep, and he's like, "Who shitted on me, bro?" He goes, "What?" I think that's what it is. He's like, "What? No, who's there?" He's like, "Who shitted on me, bro?"
That's the first thing he says when he wakes up. That is
he's
hilarious.
Like, "What? Oh!" But he's like laughing about it almost. He's like, "Who shitted on me, bro?"
Yeah.
Who shitted on me? Oh shit.
But of course Ryan would be into that. Ryan would be the one to introduce us to that clip.
Exactly. But yeah, so they're getting picked off.
Yeah, the Harkonnen are dropping like flies. It might be multiple snipers, but we don't really ever see who's taking them out. The last two remaining ones kind of float down, and they happen to float down around the area that Paul and Jessica are hiding. So they're just like, oh shit, trying to stay still and don't make any noise. What eventually gets the Harkonnen guys to turn around is one of the Harkonnen bodies falls down from the cliff behind him. And so he turns around and he spots him. So Paul, just like out of instinct, he just starts like charging towards the guy full speed, right? The guy pulls out a sword and he tries to go and take out Paul, but Paul's able to like arm himself with the sword from one of the bodies that fell down. He's able to take out that guy. So it's kind of like one of those tense scenes where you're just like, oh shit.
Yeah, it starts off early.
He has to hurry up and seize that moment of opportunity.
Yeah. This movie's not going to build slowly here. We're getting to it. They're just like, already he's kicking ass. Boom. Don't forget who this guy is.
Isn't there someone that is going to take out Paul, right? Like, isn't he's like behind him, and then Lady Jessica is the one that ends up taking that guy out.
Right. She smashes his head with a rock.
That's right. Also, even before like all the fighting happened, he was envisioning his future sister. Chani
Mm-hmm.
thought he was sleeping, but he was just having these like visions of potential futures, I guess you could say. Because there's always opportunity that maybe Jessica could be killed before his sister's born, even. So it's like in one of the possible futures, he sees a more grown sister, and they're almost like talking to each other from like different times, which is kind of odd.
Yeah, yeah.
Their link and their bond, it's strange for sure, with all these prescient powers and stuff in the mix.
Yes, exactly. Just amplifies it.
And we're also introduced to a couple new characters early on in the film. So we're introduced to Princess Irulan. I'm putting like phonetic sounds next to these names because I got to remember how to pronounce these names. So Princess Irulan, played by Florence Pugh, and her father, Emperor Shaddam, played by freaking Christopher Walken.
Motherfucking walking.
I was not expecting him to be in this movie. That was a pleasant surprise.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I had I don't know, I thought I'd seen in the cast somewhere that he was in, and I was like, oh, I wish I didn't know that now. And then when he appeared, I had already forgotten that he was, so I was just like, what the damn it, that's right. How funny. How awesome and funny since we saw Pulp Fiction
Right.
and shoved the watch up his ass.
Up his ass. Although this is a super serious role for him, so he play it in a campy way at all. This one is definitely
No, not
like
at all.
strictly serious. He doesn't get much face time in this film.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the beginning of the movie and the end of the movie, but not really a whole lot other than that. Princess Irulan, though, she makes a lot of appearances throughout the film because she does these almost like journaling segments of the movie where she kind of talks about the fall of House Atreides, and then House Harkonnen being the ones responsible for that, and then the fact that Paul might still be alive somewhere. She talks about these little things almost like to herself. Like I don't even think she's really talking to anyone. It seems like it's just kind of like a personal journal almost.
Mm-hmm. Right.
From my understanding, this is kind of cool because the character plays this exact role in the books. If you were staying true to the first book, the character would have been in the first movie in a similar fashion. She would have been popping up randomly throughout the movie, just kind of talking about the major events happening.
Mm.
So, and I think John was the one that was telling me about that. Kind of cool that we finally get to see this character. I do feel like it was probably better to introduce her in the second film because I feel like with the first film, with it being so great, you don't want to explain too much all at one time. The first movie was bringing a lot to the plate. There was a lot to take
Mm-hmm.
in,
Mm-hmm.
and imagine just throwing one more element on top of that with this random ass girl that keeps popping up talking about shit that we already saw. So I felt like it made more sense to, especially because she would be interacting with the people in person towards the second half of the story. So it was kind of a genius way of still keeping her in the story and still having her do the things that she was doing in the novel, but just not as much. They just kind of trimmed it down to the second half of the novel.
I got you.
We find out a little bit about her, that she's a Bene Gesserit herself, right? She's been trained. The Emperor, he seems like he really like didn't have any love for House Atreides. He was like, fuck them. Who are they to me?
Mm-hmm. He seems not to care, but really, it's like you realize the Bene Gesserit are the ones pulling the strings. It's the Reverend Mother who's got the final say. So, and she said this in the voiceover, which to your point actually did come early in the movie, where she said, "My father." I wrote it down.
You drew it, actually.
I drew it actually. Yeah, I drew it. It says, "My father has always been guided by the calculus of power."
Power as in the Bene Gesserit.
Power. Damn. Yeah, exactly. It's always been interesting. Well, what they could bring him exactly. So since what they have is mysterious, he just kind of like trusts them, and they make the decisions because they're the ones who can foresee the future kind of
Mm.
thing. And
Kind of like an advisor role, but in a way they're actually making all the decisions.
exactly like a cabinet for a president, but like they're the ones actually pulling the strings, and they're just saying, "Be the puppet, talk about the things we want you to talk about, or say the things we
But
want you
just
to
a
say."
public figure, yeah.
Bene Gesserit, him not caring. It seems that way, but I really think, yeah, ultimately he just wants fucking power, and it's not like he's like, I don't give a shit about them, but it's more just like, it happened.
I went into so much detail in our first recording talking about the Bene Gesserit because I just felt like that was such an interesting part of the story that they barely touched on in the first movie. And I had no
Mm-hmm.
idea that they were going to go way more into it in the second film. So I feel like I don't really need to go into much detail about them because it's like
Right.
we learn more about them and what they're about and what they can do and how they operate and stuff like that. So that's actually kind of cool. Like I was afraid that they were going to leave a lot of that stuff out, but they were just waiting for the second half.
That's all.
I was just jumping the gun with that one, but they are still interesting. Like just that concept was really fascinating.
Yeah.
So we're back on Arrakis. We got Paul, Lady Jessica, Chani, Stilgar, and the rest of the Fremen crew. They bring them to one of their notable towns, which is Sietch Tabr. I don't know if that's actually how you pronounce it, but that's what it seemed like people were calling it. And I think I actually
Hmm.
saw a recording of Herbert kind of narrating, or maybe he was just talking about certain parts of the story, and he himself pronounced it CH Tabr. So I'm just going off of that.
Hmm.
You know, when they show up to the town, the Atreides are not welcomed with open arms. A lot of people suspect them as being spies. It's understandable. You know, you got these outsiders coming in, and really the only one that's kind of backing them up is Stilgar, who's a
Mm-hmm.
well-respected member of the community, but still, they're just like, bro, like, what are you doing? Why are you bringing these foreigners here?
Yeah. Yeah. It's not like you.
Stilgar goes to bat for him, though. He's really convinced that Paul is going to be the one. He's what
Mm-hmm.
the prophecy has been talking about.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Man, let's do a little bit of a deeper dive here. So, for the Fremen community, at least in Stogar's belief, Paul could possibly be the Lisan al-Gaib, which is, I guess that's what they call the one, you know, in their culture. That's their prophet or messiah, Lisan al-Gaib. And then this actually aligns with Lady Jessica's belief, like her Bene Gesserit belief, which is their equivalent of this one person, this messiah, is the Kwisatz Haderach. So if you hear any of those terms, they're essentially kind of talking about the same person, just different religions.
Okay.
And that's what I was getting a little confused about was they were interchanging a lot of these terms, and I'm like, wait, which one is what? So Kwisatz Haderach is for Bene Gesserit, and then Lisan al-Gaib is for the Fremen.
Ah, okay. Okay.
You got these different beliefs that kind of line up at this point, and Paul seems to be that person for both sides.
Yeah. Wow. It's interesting. It's interesting. Because it's almost like it spans something greater than any of them. It's like the Bene Gesserit are kind of tapped in, but so are in some other way. Well, no, actually, it's all part of the same thing. Yeah, the Bene Gesserit are the ones who are giving the beliefs to those people. So it's like it's all them. It's all them, but it's this power that's beyond. And I still don't think we've really tapped into the power of spice yet, even with both movies having seen
Right.
both. Like it's still an illusion to us, and we still don't know how space travel works. We may never know, but with regard to what the Bene Gesserit are able to do with spice versus how it's used functionally.
Mm-hmm. If you see me kind of like over explaining some of these terms, please bear with us because man, they got some fucking weird ass terms, and I just feel like for me to understand it, I needed to do a little bit of research into what these terms were, so that way when I'm talking about them, I don't get them mixed up or I'm not just like completely out of left field. This store has a lot of terminology.
It does. Its own language. It's beautiful.
Believe me when I say we're with these two movies, we're barely scratching the surface of the Dune lore or Duneverse, if you will.
Universe. I think I will.
It's probably to a point where it might be a little much for me, even. I'm kind of cool with like the grounded approach that Denis is taking with the books, but man, with those
Hmm.
novels, like with the Guild Navigators and shit, I'm like, dude, they barely even touched on the mentats.
What's that?
So a mentat is, man, see, and this is a whole nother deep dive, bro. But a mentat is essentially kind of like a human computer.
What?
There was like this extinction of machines. they're abolished. That's what I was looking for. So they were abolished.
Ah.
And the reason for that is because apparently the computers got too smart and they were trying to recreate these computers in a way that like they could think like humans, and they were kind of like taking over, right? And becoming too reliant on them.
Mm-hmm.
They were eventually outlawed. They had to have been destroyed completely. And now it got to the point where instead of trying to create machines to be like humans, it's like, why can't we just train humans to be as efficient as machines? So that's where we have mentats, which are people that are trained to be able to calculate as efficiently as machines. It's wild, huh?
Yeah. What the hell? That sounds interesting.
It's so fascinating, right?
Weird. Yeah, yeah. But it's so thought out.
That's what I like about the Duneverse is that there's just so many elements to it that all come together. The main story, like I said, is only scratching the surface. And then if you
Oh.
are that interested in it, then you can dig further and get to the real meat of it.
Okay, dang. So you have the main story, but then you have all these other stories that build that main one up, or give more color, more texture to the environment.
Exactly. I think the only mentat we see in both movies is on Caladan. Either when they're loading on the ship or they're getting off the ship. I think there's that one guy that kind of has like, he has like that little paint on his lip and his eyes
Yep,
are all white. That guy's a mentat.
that's right. I remember him now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do remember him popping in, and like his eyes, like you said, his eyes roll back.
Yeah. And you know what? I actually gotta shout you out because you were so dedicated that you straight up you were taking notes while watching this movie in the theater. And you were like you weren't even writing. So I feel like writing is hard enough, but you were like illustrating in the dark as you were watching it.
Dude, the more detailed ones I did like at the end when I was like I was writing these notes down just so that I would remember. I was like, oh man, because it's I just won't have the time to be able to like watch like or even look up a wiki that gives me the layout of everything. It's so much harder. I don't get it when I read it. I get it better when I see it. So I was like, what's sticking out to me, what's noticeable, and then somehow writing, well, because it's hard to write letters. I guess you could kind of write in cursive, but writing in cursive would be so much slower than just doing like a visual type of note where I was just like, oh yeah, she was preggers. Yep. Then she died.
The end.
And then the end. And then yeah, then a bunch of other weird shit. But it's so funny looking at them now. It makes so much sense, and I see kind of the flow. If I could do them over, I would or you know, if I took the time, I would flesh them out even more.
Dude, it would have been wild if you're just like, oh, check out some of these notes I did, and they're like straight up like shot for shot illustrations, like a storyboard.
Exactly. Yeah, you're like, I'm like, no, you're doing it wrong, dude. You got to flip it, and you're like flipping it. It's actually the
In motion. It's like the entire end fight scene.
It's the entire end fight scene. I was like, this part really got my attention, dude. This part really stuck out to me. Yeah, that was me with my notes.
Bob Ross in it in the dark.
Yeah, trying happy clouds, dude.
So where we're at, we got Stilgar. He reveals to Lady Jessica that the Sietch Tabr Reverend Mother is dying, and he actually wants Jessica to take her place. In order to take her place, she would need to drink this liquid called the Water of Life, and purpose of that is it kind of unlocks this ancestral knowledge, but it also tries to kill you. It's essentially a poison. That is the only way to ascend into a Reverend Mother.
You have to, right? You have to drink that poison.
Yep.
Not sorry.
I'm leaving that in.
Oh my gosh.
It's such a sweet moment. Like, how am I going to cut that?
That's so sweet. She's just baking stuff out there too. She's like, "Oh, you're gonna be doing that for a little bit. Okay, I'm gonna bake." So
I know that you drew about this. So, what did you think about the whole concept of the Water of Life?
Oh my gosh. I don't know. It was you can't help but get that messianic kind of vibe. Of course, somebody's gonna have to die. But what I was also thinking about was how in some ways we it's very symbolic, in some ways we have to die to our old selves to move forward in our lives, whatever that is. And it's not like we're losing our personality per se. It's just we're shedding old ways of thinking, ways that don't really serve us anymore, and that are built upon, the foundation of what we how we thought as kids. When we internalized these things from typically from traumatic events, something that caused an emotional response from us. And yeah, so that water of life, it's kind of interesting that the very thing that they talk about giving life is something that takes it away
Like the
first.
opposite, yeah. It's so wild.
It's a paradox, right? That in order to live, to live more fully,
Hmm.
for those capable of take drinking it and surviving, then you have to be willing to risk it, or and risk dying, or never have that for yourself. And especially if you're the one, if that's what you're called to do, then
Right.
you'll never know.
I was looking into the elixir of life and like what it means to the Bene Gesserit, just because I was
Mm.
curious as to like how did this even come to be. In that research, I learned some more cool shit about the Bene Gesserit. They are trained
Huh.
to essentially manipulate the molecules of their bodies, canceling out poisons.
Oh, that's how they do it.
They have to alter their body to be able to survive this poison going through their system.
And that in and of itself is the test.
Right. If you can't survive that, you're not good enough to be a Reverend Mother. So,
Yeah, yeah.
but apparently, yeah, this is something only women can survive. Like guys don't have the skills to be able to do that, unless you're the one.
Right, right.
Males, stay away. Yeah, this will
Right,
straight up kill
right.
you. Yeah. And so I
Damn.
thought that was pretty cool. And on top of that, on top of surviving poisons, this makes more sense to me now, having read this. So this is how bloodlines are controlled by the Bene Gesserit using this skill.
Mm-hmm.
When they change the molecules of their bodies, when they become pregnant, they can also control the gender of the child.
What?
So if they need a son, they can create a son. If they need a daughter, they can create a daughter. That makes so much more sense as
Whoa.
to the dynamic between Lady Jessica, Duke Leto, and Lady Jessica with the rest of the Bene Gesserit. Because from my understanding with the bloodline was that Lady Jessica was supposed to have a daughter, which is she still is, but the thing is she was supposed to have a daughter first, and that daughter was going to give birth to the one.
Oh, interesting. So she's going about it differently.
Out of her love for Duke Leto, she gave him a son first in Paul.
Right, right.
And Paul ended up becoming, or he started showing signs that he might be the one. So it kind of skipped that step, which I think was vital to the whole bloodline and to the whole plan. So because of that, that's why the rest of the Bene Gesserit are like, this bitch betrayed us. She betrayed us for a man on top of it. So it's not even for like the
Uh,
sisterhood. She did it for a man. So fuck her. She's dead to us. And that's why they take it upon themselves to do their own thing and kind of just shun her out.
because she didn't follow the order that she was supposed to, where she's supposed to give the birth to the daughter, who then, like, she anticipated it and gave birth to the son, who could be the one.
Yeah, I don't know if she necessarily did that with the intent of like, maybe I could be the one to give birth to the
No, no,
one.
it's out of love. Yeah, absolutely. I see what you're saying. Yeah, I see what you're saying.
It's kind of trippy to think that like, oh shit, it kind of worked out anyway, right, guys? And they're just like, nah, you fucked up.
Oh, right, 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 right. Yeah,
Hmm.
dang. But don't worry, we have another one. We have others that are.
The daughter, which I guess that would have been Paul's sister, that was supposed to carry out this task, right? The sister was supposed to get with someone from House Harkonnen. Together, they would have created the Kwisatz Haderach.
Hmm.
They've been setting this up for fucking generations, and Jessica messed it up at the finish line.
Oh, dang. I get. Okay. I can see their frustration now.
She's kind of gone rogue, she's kind of
Mm-hmm.
just doing her own thing now. Well, like she's doing her own thing for her family. So she's like 100% behind
Right.
Paul and she's betting everything on him.
Yeah. Even her daughter.
So now we got Lady Jessica taking the poison that is the water of life. Of course, she survives. Although it seems like she almost died at first, but I feel like they get to this point where they have such low vital signs that they seem dead. I don't know if that's the process of them just like manipulating their bodies or whatever to do what it needs to do.
Hmm. Mm-hmm.
She becomes a Reverend Mother, and what this does is she now inherits the memories of every female ancestor in the lineage. You know, they also have some clairvoyance as well. And now she has
Right.
this like vast library to go off of, past, present, and future.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't know. I think that it's wild. I don't know. That part of it is crazy, and her being able to have access to the future,
Mhm.
and it's almost like, again, like we've talked about this. We talked about this at the office. How she just changes like almost overnight. She was a little more timid. When Paul had his test where he put his hand in the box in the first movie,
Mhm.
she was shivering basically, and she was trying to be strong. And then even just before she was put to the test where she had to drink the life of water, at that moment she had her Paul moment where she had to go that far to with pain and
She had to prove herself, yeah.
had to prove herself, and then also subject her child to it as well.
Exactly, which is a major part. This freaks out even the Bene Gesserit because they're like, "Oh shit, we
Right.
didn't know you were pregnant." They're like, "We would have never had you take this water of life knowing that you're pregnant," because it seems like no one else had ever done this before and they didn't know how it would affect a child. They would presumably think that this would kill a child because they haven't been trained to be able to survive
Mm-hmm.
this. This is still a fetus, but yet somehow it's able to survive.
Bro, it's just crazy. It's just crazy. Like thinking about that, thinking about how what she had to go through. She's the daughter that Paul's mom was supposed to have. And so because that, it's almost like she's that much more powerful. It's like she's with it, and she's already had the practice of teaching her son Paul. So it's like internalizing that with her daughter, and the connection that the two of them experience going through death together. This, yeah, I don't know. Who knows?
What I'm wondering now is like, since she fucked up the order of operations and Paul was born first, but yet he's still showing that he could potentially be the one. But then she still goes through with the daughter who is still kind of following the plan, you know? So does that
Mm-hmm.
mean that they're both equally going to be as powerful as they're supposed to be? I don't know if Paul was ever supposed to even be a thing. Like maybe she was only supposed to have a daughter and that was it.
Oh, maybe right. And then that daughter was supposed to have the son. But yeah, I don't know. It's just something that makes me believe that he is more the one, that he is the one, and that this isn't just like a Matrix situation where it's like, are you the one? Are you not the one? No, it's more like he is the one. And one of the reasons why I think more that way is, although she was supposed to be the one who gave birth to the one, when he sees his sister as an adult on the beach and he has a conversation with her, she says very few words to him, but what she does say is, I believe in you, I love you.
Which is kind of cool. So it's like she still has this love for someone that she's kind of speaking to. She knows all about
Mm,
even before she ever meets him, which is kind of crazy to think about. She's a fetus, but yet she's so cognizant of what's going on. She knows exactly who she is, what the situation is, and what she's supposed to be doing. And it's wild that like she's so far advanced. She's way more advanced than Paul is right now as a young
yeah,
adult,
yeah,
and she's not even born yet.
yeah. And that's wild. It's like, as the woman who was supposed to give birth to the one, she must possess some certain qualities that are matronly, that are really, really motherly, right? That are good for that relationship. And so it's almost as though, because even though she was born in a different order, she carries that with her, with him, and just wants to build him up. So
Mhm.
yeah, I don't know.
And I feel like there's even potential for her because she's starting so young. There's still a lot of potential for her to even surpass Paul. Paul's still kind of
Right,
reaching his
right.
peak right now, too, right?
Oh yeah.
So, Lady Jessica, from this point on, after drinking the water of life and also subjecting the daughter, which is, I guess, we learn the name is Alia or something like
Hmm.
that. Isn't that what the
I
sister's
think
name
so.
is?
Yeah, it
I think
is.
her name is Alia. Jessica is discussing what she should do with Aaliyah. Like they're kind of like having these adult conversations amongst themselves, which I found so
Yeah.
strange and creepy, but
Yeah, so
so
cool.
interesting at the same time.
Yeah, it was cool.
This is some shit that I've never even thought of.
Yeah, same.
I'm digging it. You know, that's some Frank Herbert.
Genius.
He's a fucking He's a weird ass guy for coming up with this, but genius.
So sick.
I have no idea how this is going to be treated in the third movie, because by the second movie, she's essentially supposed to already be born and be a toddler. And that was actually shown in the David Lynch film. But yeah, she goes this whole movie without being born. So I wonder if they're going to either speed up the timeline in order to show her as a toddler, or if maybe they feel like they can kind of still tell the same story without having her accelerate her age. It'll be interesting to see what they do in the third film.
Yeah. I wonder if they'll just skip time. I wonder what happens in the run-up. I don't know how soon this holy war takes place, but it seems pretty immediate, and his mom seems to be, this age, so it all seems to happen in a relatively short span of time. So I don't know when she'll be born, like you said, unless there's going to be a fourth and a fifth, and who knows how many more.
Jessica and Alia, they both decide together telepathically to focus on convincing the northern Fremen people of the prophecy. Let them know that this is actually coming true. It doesn't seem like she needs to convince the southern people, because they're a little bit more religious down there from what they explained, but the northern people are more skeptical. Chani she's kind of like, she's not really religious herself, and she doesn't really believe in the prophecy. In turn, she doesn't think that Paul is going to be this like great being. She's just like, no, you're just a regular human, just like me. Also around this time, Paul is earning more of the respect of the Fremen crew, because, he's hanging out more with them, and he's going with them on these missions, these raids at the spice facilities and the little harvesting machines and stuff like that. They're raiding all those. So yeah, he's in the trenches with the Fremen people, and he's also earning the respect of Chani as well. First, she was a little skeptical of him, and she sees that he can also hold his own, and it's kind of cool seeing this organic relationship form between them. And this is what we've been waiting for since the first movie, since basically the beginning of the first
visions
movie, when he gets those visions for the first time. He's like, who is this girl that I keep dreaming about?
Falling in love. Wow.
How do you like seeing more Zendaya in this one? Because, she's playing a prominent role.
Yeah, love it. No, she's amazing. Absolutely. She does such a great job. And so, yeah, I'm very happy to see her have more screen time. She commands, she has such a presence.
I definitely feel like she does a great job of being the strong female character, but also at the same time, she does have this soft side to her, in that you have to really put in the time and work to be able to see that side of her, because she's so calloused on the outside. She has this wall up for sure, and I don't know if it's because of her background, or if it's because of things that she's experienced, or it could just be because he's not Fremen. But yeah, she definitely has a wall up at the start, and then as she spends more time with Paul, he's even said, he's reiterated that he's not there to rule the Fremen people. He wants to fight alongside them. That's what he's trying to do.
Right.
I don't think he ever says how long this has been going on for, but it seems like it's been going on for several months at least.
Yeah.
The fact that, they're just kind of like randomly attacking these posts and stuff like that. In the book as well, it's supposed to have been like close to a year that he's been doing this, and he's just been fighting alongside them, going on these missions.
With she's still pregnant, so it would have happened in the span of 9 months still. So yeah, so it's still quite a short period of time, because she's still preggers.
But Paul has been assimilating into their culture as well. So, he's learning their language. He's raiding the Harkonnen spice operations, like I was saying. And they even promote him to a Feyd-Rautha, which I guess is kind of like a Fremen warrior of sorts. So it's like a warrior rank. It seems like he's really appreciative of becoming this Feyd-Rautha fighter. Because it's like, that's what he wants to do. He wants to fight with them and defend the Fremen people. And during this time, Paul and Chani grow close to each other, falling in love. It's kind of sweet. They handled this relationship way better than Game of Thrones. You know what I mean?
Much better.
With Jon Snow and Daenerys, that was... I wish they would have at least put a little bit of time into that relationship. It could have been like this, like, how hard was this?
Yeah, exactly.
This is a believable relationship that they developed.
Yeah, we'll see how the other one goes. We'll see how, as the story goes further on, how that develops.
it starts forming into some sort of love triangle, which definitely I imagine is going to complicate things.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, one of my favorite parts of the movie was when well, I guess they've been attacking a few of those spice harvester machines, but they definitely stay on one in particular where it shows them being burrowed in the sand and they're just kind of breathing through these little straws, right? And you see that little mouse come up and is like kind of like fucking with the straws
Ah.
or whatever. And so that's how they get the jump on the Harkonnen is that they bury themselves in the sand, and when they get close, they just like burst out and start like blitzing them,
Mm-hmm.
catch them
Mm-hmm.
off guard. And so they do that to one of the harvesters, and it was cool because they're just like so organized, and you can see that they all know their role, they know what to do, and they're just this well-oiled machine. They're quick, efficient, strike fast, strike hard,
Mm-hmm.
right? This harvester has this like guard ornithopter floating around. So they have to take out the ornithopter first because that thing is just like firing at them and it's taking out a few of the
Mm-hmm.
Fremen people. Such a cool scene where Paul and Chani have to work together to take
Yeah.
down that
Yeah.
ornithopter.
Exactly.
They can't seem to get a clear shot. And so what they have to do is be exposed long enough so that way she can fire off that little rocket, which burrows through the shield. You can't just like shoot at it, because it's not going to
Mm-hmm.
penetrate.
Mm-hmm.
So Paul takes it upon himself to become the decoy. So
Mm-hmm.
he's just like, I'm gonna run between the legs of this machine. The ornithopter is gonna focus on me, and then that will allow you to be able to take it out. But unfortunately for him, he kind of miscalculates, and so he's running towards the other leg, and the leg moves. So it's like
Moving
he's
away
just
from him.
exposed, and
Yeah.
he's like, "Fuck."
So he's chasing it.
And this was a fucking dope scene.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, leading by example, really, and sticking his neck out, really proving to them that he sees himself as fighting alongside them, like he was saying before, and putting his literal skin in the game, really risking it all.
Lead by example.
If he didn't, then they're like all dead.
I always loved watching that. Just like even in the first film when they drop those little torpedoes onto the ships and it's like digging through the
Yeah,
shield and then it
zzz.
blows up inside.
Yeah,
Oh, I love that.
yeah.
So cool.
No, that movie's fucking. Those special effects are badass, but yeah, absolutely.
And that's where he gets that name, Muad'Dib.
Mm-hmm. Muad'Dib.
I think that was after the success of that mission, actually.
Precisely, yeah.
The Fremen trooper celebrating, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And they're just
Mm-hmm.
like, dude, that was awesome,
You're
like what
one
you
of
guys did
us.
out there.
Exactly. You're one of us now. Welcome. And now as one of us, you have to have and you have to be named and I have to have a nickname.
Fremen name,
A
yeah.
Fremen name, not a nickname, a
Especially.
Fremen name.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Like Paul's your given name, but like what name do you choose for yourself? And everyone thought he was gonna choose like something like kind of badass sounding. He's like, no, I think I'll go with Muad'Dib. The fucking mouse, like why? And I kind of liked his reasoning for it because he was saying like how he appreciates the tenacity and resourcefulness of this little species
Mm-hmm.
to live out here and thrive in this harsh terrain.
Yeah.
Kind of like him, he's this little scrawny kid in the first
Right.
movie, and now he's kind of coming into his own.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
He's paving his own destiny, his own path.
Yeah. Seemingly so small in comparison. You see all these other guys these other soldiers, big dudes.
Yeah, he's no Duncan, Idaho, right? He's
Mm-hmm.
no Gurney.
No, he's no Gurney. He's not even well. In these other rulers of these houses, he's not like what's that? What's the leader of the Harkonnens? I'm trying to think of his name now.
The Baron, Vladimir Harkonnen.
Baron. Yeah, I was like, it's a B. It's yeah, Baron. Mm-hmm.
And speaking of thriving, man, the Fremen are just like really fucking up the Harkonnen left and right. And this is also messing with the spice production for the Harkonnen. So Raban is like sweating bullets, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
He's tasked with continuing the spice production while also eliminating the threat. Raban, played by Dave Bautista, of course.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
He's just like not getting it done. He's pretty much getting like made to look like a fool every single time. With every single harvester that goes down, it makes him look even worse and worse. And he's getting called out by the Baron. The Baron, played by Stellan Skarsgård, reprising his role. He calls him out on his many failures, and he's like, listen, you need to get the shit under control. Otherwise, we're gonna have to make some changes. So, Raban's like, all right, I'm gonna get it done. So now there's a lot of pressure on him. And this is cool because now we get to see where the Harkonnen come from. We get to visit their homeworld of Giedi Prime. a
Mm.
heavily industrialized and kind of polluted planet. It's also important to note that everything looks like grayscale on this planet, and I thought that was fucking cool.
Yeah, that was badass. Like Sin City.
Yeah, it's kind of uncomfortable to look at, but in an interesting way.
Their fireworks are fucking oil. They look like fucking oil
Yeah,
splatters in the air. Just
I was trying to figure out what the science was behind this planet. Like, why does it look this way? The reason why everything's so void of color is because they have this, their sun is a black sun. It's like bright but dim. I was kind of attributing it to almost like an eclipse at all times.
yeah, yeah, exactly.
It's sunny, there's no clouds in the sky, but it's dim at the same time. It looks really eerie.
Yeah.
And because of this odd lighting, that's why it like mutes everything else.
Wow. Okay. That makes total sense. Yeah, and I was just thinking like, well, and what their atmosphere is composed of or whatever, they don't seem to need to
Hmm.
have any other kind of equipment on maybe it's on their ships. I don't know. Maybe I haven't paid close enough attention, but the reason why I note that is because their fireworks weren't really like actual lights. Even like in that area, they weren't like lights that would be under a black sun. It was they were like splatters of oil, kind of like the oil that Baron
Some sort of liquid.
gets in. Yeah, exactly, like a liquid. It's like, and it makes kind of that same splatter sound. It's so I was like, that's really interesting.
Hmm.
I remember even asking Easton, I turned to her and I said, I wonder if like, do they purposefully make themselves that pale or is it because of their planet? It seems to me to be that.
Mm. I almost feel like they kind of embrace it, whereas since you can't really see color, there's no point in doing these different designs on your face because it's like no, it just kind of looks gray at the end of the day. So it's like might as well just fucking paint ourselves white and go from there. I mean, I think they're all kind of pasty to begin with because of the fact that there's. I don't think they really have that much melanin in their skin, right? So
Ah,
they're just kind of translucent looking, and
mhm.
in a lot of ways they kind of have you seen that movie Prometheus? They remind me of those like
Yes.
proto-human
Yes.
guys.
Exactly.
Since they're already pasty, they're already bald, might as well just embrace it, and so they just paint themselves all white. But I like the extra
Mm.
touch they gave to Feyd-Rautha, played by Austin Butler, where they made his mouth entirely black because no one else had that. So I wonder if that was just like something to maybe invoke like intimidation in a way.
Huh. Okay. Yeah, maybe. I wondered, was it always black? Because I remember he was always eating people. And he was just like, yeah, save some for them, for the girls or whatever. And so he was always just like eating and having it like in his teeth. So I wasn't sure if that's just because he's just a voracious eater and just like, yeah, always had that kind of shit going on or
Interesting.
what. But
Well, I mean, if you look at black and white movies, blood does look black, right? So
oh, right,
that's
right,
how
right,
they
right,
always depicted it.
right. Huh. Oh, right, and that's why Hitchcock and Psycho used the Hershey's chocolate syrup for blood in the tub.
Hmm.
But yeah, so that's interesting. What was Austin Butler's name again? How do you say it?
Feyd-Rautha.
Fade
I
Roth.
had to look that one up because I mean it's spelled kind of weird. It's even got a little hyphen in the middle.
Gotta fix my notes.
I only know that because I spell it out phonetically.
Oh, that's right.
Oh, you know another thing I noticed too? I feel like how you were mentioning on their planet they don't wear any armor or like face shields or anything like that, but I feel like when they're on Arrakis and they're out in the elements they always have a tinted face shield at all times.
That's right. You're right. That's exactly right. Yeah. Big ass helmet.
Hmm. Their version of an astronaut suit or something that you can fight in.
Huh. Good point. Yeah, that you can fight in exactly. And they have like jet boosters and shit. Yeah.
Yeah, we love that effect because it's not a typical like thrust. It's just like it almost like swoops you up, kind of manipulates gravity around you,
Right. That's weird. That was an interesting depiction of it,
gently like push off the
Almost like
rocks.
swimming in a pool. Yeah, almost like in
Hmm.
a pool where you just go along the bottom of
Swimming
it. You kind of,
upward.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's a cool thing to. I don't know. That frightens me a little bit. The thought that this entire other like, being that doesn't breathe our air can just come, and you know what I mean? Like imagine being in their shoes,
Hmm.
being the Fremen, and just having these people show up, and just because I mean, and they wear these suits, you like, whoa, they can't really, they were not made to live on this planet, but they just are there to extract shit and get the fuck out and ruin your lives.
And that's why I wonder why Raban and Vladimir are able to just be outside their suits when on Arrakis, but everyone else kind of puts on the little helmets and face shields and stuff. Because even as soon as the sun kind of like peeks over the horizon, they're like, "Oh shit!" and they gotta like tint their face shields.
Ah,
I don't think their eyes are used to the such a bright source of light.
right.
But maybe Raban and Vladimir have been on Arrakis several times, so they're a little bit more conditioned
Acclimated.
for it.
Right.
Hmm. So we're introduced to Feyd-Rautha, and his introduction is kind of interesting because he's participating in almost like this gladiator, like a duel thing going on, this competition. I think what makes it especially heinous is that these aren't just fellow Harkonnen that he's slaughtering. These are like POWs that the Harkonnen have captured, and they just use them for entertainment.
Yeah, and these particular ones are House Atreides.
Right. It's kind of fucked up too because what they do, we find out not long after, is that they drug the competition, and so that way Feyd-Rautha can just have easy pickings, over these guys. Not
Mm-hmm.
much of a threat to him, to his life or his safety or anything like that.
Right, and look good in front of the crowd.
Yeah. The Baron kind of organizes it for him, to build him up as like this really like proud Harkonnen that everyone can get behind. He's fighting for his people and he's ruthless and he'll get the job done. But Vladimir kind of throws a little curveball and he leaves one of those POW guys undrugged. So he has a little bit of competition. He struggles with that guy a little bit, but he's ultimately able to defeat him as well.
Hmm.
And I was actually wasn't sure how to take that. Like Vladimir, he said he did it as almost like a gift to his cousin, but do you feel like the cousin took offense to that, or did he actually appreciate the fact that he was trying to challenge him?
I think I think he didn't like the way it was done, but I think he took it. I think he took the challenge. He wanted, because in a way, it's almost like the gift that Vladimir gave him was, you can prove to yourself that you actually can fight. Otherwise, you're always questioning it. If every fight is a rigged fight and you're always winning,
Hmm.
like, can you, is your training really that good, and can you really kill these people if you were put to the test? Now that question's been answered in his head, and so he can walk even prouder now.
Definitely, yeah.
And also it's a test for him to rise to the occasion, to now build from, because now he's seen that he can defeat this guy. There's a lot of other things he can do now as a leader, because he's faced someone in a controlled battle situation. But I mean, because there were people around that were going to stab the other guy if he got a little too good, if he got
Right,
in
right.
there, right?
It still wasn't a real fight.
It was sparring in a sense.
If there's more to lose, then I think that makes the reward even juicier.
Yeah, exactly.
Also fed his ego. It fed his confidence and his ego.
Exactly.
Needless to say, this guy is a little bit of a psychopath, though. I think he just likes killing people. I don't know if he necessarily is like living for the thrill of the fight. I think he just likes murdering people in general.
Yeah, he certainly has a passion for it. He's good at what he does. And he just, it just seems like he doesn't give a shit. Like, life, other people's lives don't really matter to him, even though somehow they do matter to him. It matters to him when he's in front of everybody else wanting to look good, but it doesn't matter behind closed doors. He'll just slice somebody's throat just because they spoke up and it was contradictory to something he said.
He also runs into a love interest of sorts. So we're introduced to a new character in the Denis Villeneuve series, Lady Margot Fenring, played by Leia Sado. I think that's how you say it. Beautiful actress, by the way.
Absolutely. Yeah. From the Bond movies, right?
Yeah, she's the last love interest for the Daniel Craig Bond series,
Right, right.
and she's a Bene Gesserit sent to scope out and possibly set up a plan B after Lady Jessica's betrayal of the grand plan that was supposed to have been Lady Jessica giving birth to a daughter, and then that daughter would give birth to the Messiah. But now they're going with a different path, and that path is going to be through Feyd-Rautha by way of Lady Margot Fenring.
Mm-hmm,
So
mm-hmm.
her job is to go there, seduce him, manipulate him, and control him. You know, as savage as Feyd was made out to be, I felt like he was actually kind of easily seduced by Margot.
The ego. She appealed to his ego. They even know exactly how to manipulate him. Remember, it's it's desire. They're like, what is he? What are his weaknesses? His weaknesses are desire and his ego, and that's exactly what they attack. Is yeah, desire. He desires. He's got like this. Eat when he eats. He eats. Just doesn't care. Spills people's blood right there on the spot. Boom. Um, and yeah, he gets what he wants, like you said before, and so she compliments. She pats his ego, and
She makes him want it, and he doesn't say no.
exactly, he's like, I get what I want.
That's what's so funny is that he thinks he's taking it, but that was part of the plan the entire time. So
Right. I
it's like,
mean,
who's
but
getting who? Who
right,
got?
exactly. Who got exactly? Because in the end, he's like left chasing her. He's like, where is she? Which direction did she go? She's like, this way.
The bloodline secure, reporting into the Reverend Mothers and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting to think that there's so many different ways of achieving the Kwisatz Haderach, because it seemed like they have to take a long time and really control these specific generations of people, these specific bloodlines. But then they're so easily able to pivot to this other guy, and they're like, okay, so if we throw Margot out there with Feyd-Rautha, then they could also possibly create the Kwisatz Haderach. So I don't know. It seems like it's actually not as difficult as they made out to be initially.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. Well, or if it is, this is the right time. So it's like, okay, all these things, maybe it is difficult, but maybe it's that um timing is everything. And so it needs to happen now. Whatever that time is, they've already kind of done their, whatever they've leached out, and they communicate with one another with the houses they're working with, who's a candidate, you know what I mean? So maybe that's it. And yeah.
It's not necessarily who it's happening to, but it's like when.
When, and the bloodlines involved as well, because well, they know stuff we don't know, and we'll get to that later.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. I wonder if, like, down the line, can there be multiple Kwisatz Haderachs, and almost like Highlander, right? Can they take each other's like quickening of sorts?
There can be only one. That's right.
Sorry. Classic.
Dude, that movie's badass. I don't care what anybody says. The movie's badass.
So back on Arrakis, we got Lady Jessica traveling south to unite the Fremen fundamentalists who already believe in the prophecy, I should say. The South are a little bit more religious than the North. I think the North was what she's been working on trying to cultivate and build up, and then
Right.
those followers she's going to send down south, and I think that's kind of where the little religious capital is as well, their mecca
Right.
of sorts.
Precisely. Yeah, they're spiritual
Mhm.
down there. They're more religious. Mm-hmm.
Paul, of course, declines to head south because he's fearing that holy war. He doesn't want to do anything that could possibly trigger that war. And he's envisioned that war multiple times. So that means that there's a high possibility that it's going to happen. So
Mm-hmm.
he's fucking like walking on eggshells, and he's like making sure that he doesn't do anything to trigger that.
Right. Right. So it also begs the question, is there some sort of predetermined thing? Is there some sort of predestination here that he is really to be the one, and he just got a glimpse of the fact that he has to be the guy because he had that dream. It was going to happen regardless, and he had that dream, and that dream was just almost like a little hint to him, like, hey, this is coming.
Do you think of it like Terminator in a sense? Where I know you're not a big fan of the story, but you've seen at least the first two movies, right?
Oh, I like the story. I think it's just the plot holes. That's the one thing that just troubles me. Not I don't dislike that. That
That's
movie's,
how it is with time travel storylines, though.
it always is, right? It's like because we don't, there's a lot we don't fucking know, It's like we're like, okay. Well, if it were like this, and we're like, because Michael Biehn, how how is there a future where he gets to meet John Connor if he's his father, and he goes, how did this all keep anyway? Questions.
Point is, Judgment Day, because Judgment Day is when the AI basically kind of like become sentient and take over and destroy everything, right?
Yeah.
So they spend so much time trying to stop that, and then it seems like no matter what they do, it's going to happen anyway. So I wonder if that's kind of how it is with the Holy War here.
I wonder if it's even how you. Yeah, exactly. It seems like there's no avoiding it because, as we saw, he tried to avoid it. He really did try, and he was really, and he was like being stubborn that to the point where people were like, "I don't get it," but we get it. Obviously, we understand how much this means, what he's afraid of, what he saw.
So I wonder if him knowing about future events led him to make these decisions that cause it. Whereas if he just stayed on his path, he would have just bypassed it.
Oh,
But it's like now that he knows about it, he's trying to avoid it. And that's exactly what he needed to do to be able to start it.
right, right. Or what if he's being pushed there in some way, and it's like no matter what he does, every angle, every way he turns, and because time is compressing everything, he's really forced to make decisions because there's this very small window of time to get away from the fucking Harkonnen and to get to pass the message along. So it's like it's a combination of the fact that yeah, like he made the decisions he made, which led him to where he's currently at, but also it's the time where it's just like, look, you could have done something different given different circumstances, but these are the circumstances right now, and this has to happen right now. You have to go down there.
I mean, it's kind of unfortunate because had he had the stronger pressing powers, he probably could have navigated this and avoided it. But also at the same time, being
True.
able to gain those powers is also what causes it. So no matter what you do, it's a
Right.
lose lose.
As Bart Simpson would say, you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't.
Mm-hmm. Eat my shorts.
Eat my shirts. Don't have a cow, man.
You know who is having a cow? Raban, because he continues to fail, and the Baron's he's fucking fed up, man. So
Yeah.
he ends up promoting Feyd-Rautha to Raban's position. So Raban, he's kind of embarrassed. He has a fragile ego himself. So Raban is pleading with his uncle, and he's just like, "Give me another chance, like I'll get this handled." Nope, you're done. So he tries to confront Feyd-Rautha. Raban is way bigger than Feyd, but Feyd punks the shit out of him. And it
Mm-hmm.
kind of shows that Raban's just all bark, no bite.
Right. Right. Doesn't know how to pick on someone his own size.
Mm-mm.
And he's not, and he's even bigger,
Yeah. It'd be even worse if he picked on someone his own size because, he probably would have gotten killed. Luckily for him, he just got punked and that was it. He just got like slammed into the floor or whatever.
And he was forced to kiss his boot.
Damn. I don't know. I mean, I feel like it's easy to hate on Raban. I think a lot of people also didn't really like Dave Bautista in this series. They thought he was kind of miscast or whatever, or maybe his acting wasn't the strongest. Not everything's going to be like Drax, like this is a different character.
Oh, right, right, exactly. Yeah.
Now we got Feyd-Rautha, who's in a position of power, and he's able to command some troops. So um, we'll see soon enough what he's able to do with that. At another Spice Harvester raid, we have Paul. He's storming this harvester along with some Fremen troops, and they actually run back into Gurney Halleck, played by Josh Brolin.
Yay, he survived.
Yeah,
Mhm.
which is cool because I was a little perplexed as to what the hell happened. There are a lot of questions at the end of the first movie. When the Harkonnen get wiped,
Right.
or when the Atreides get wiped out by the Harkonnen, you're like, what the? They didn't even mention Gurney at all. Like, what the hell happened to him? But I didn't realize
Right.
that that was intentional.
I questioned it. I put as Walter White would, I put a pin in it. I was like, they didn't show him die. He was walking into last we saw. He was walking into some soldiers. They were squaring off, and that was it. And the rest of them took over. So we're kind of led to believe they don't leave survivors unless the survivors are then killed in by Feyd Roth in the Coliseum or whatever they call that
Oh,
thing.
true. Oh, that's even worse.
Yeah.
You're basically turned into like a feeding mouse.
Dang, dude, those are your last moments on that planet in with the breath
Yeah.
able to do anything. You're scared for your life. You look like a fool because you're not even able to fight. These guys are fighters, but it's like you're fighting against this dude with one arm behind your back, and they all just act against you, and you're like, oh, here we go.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it was interesting to see how Gurney survived. So I guess he was able to slip away unnoticed and just to survive, a means to live on this planet that he's not too familiar with. He fell into, I guess, this melange smuggler troop or something. Like I don't know. It's like he harvests the spice and he smuggles it off the planet as a means of laying low from the Harkonnen. So it's obvious that he has this vendetta and he wants to exact revenge on the Harkonnen, but he's not going to be able to do shit by himself. So I think he was just kind of like planning out things out while he's just making a living for himself.
Right.
He's a survivor.
Yeah, absolutely. He did what it took, using what he knows.
And so they're catching up. And I think Paul planned on bringing Gurney back to his group, right? So he was going to introduce him to everyone back at Sietch Tabr. But on the way back, they witnessed this brutal attack on that town and like that like little temple thing in the mountain. I don't know how they really got that intel, but this is one of the changes that we're seeing after Feyd-Rautha took over. And so he's already proving to be pretty effective. He's able to, for lack of a better term, kind of smoke out the roaches, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
This one actually is pretty sad because in that temple, that's where we see that little lake where they collect all of the Fremen body water.
God. Yeah. Sacred.
What was Stilgar saying? He was saying something like if they do this enough, then eventually they would have enough water to kind of create a lake or like an ocean or something on Arrakis. I think that's what their mentality was.
Oh.
The Fremen people are going to bring paradise ourselves, like through our bodies.
Wow. Wow, that's a beautiful symbology I didn't even catch just in that first viewing. Yeah. It's beautiful. I thought it was just sacred, that they would never touch it. And I'm sure that they wouldn't, but the fact that his intention is to bring that paradise just as they move on, as they go forge ahead, it's like the paradise that they seek is built on the lives that were lost were not lost in vain. In some sense, they're helping to bring that paradise about, both living and deceased.
Yeah, you play an even more important role when you die to the future generations, and that's I thought that was kind of cool because they just have this such a spiritual connection to the planet, and that's what I've always appreciated about the Fremen people. That's what I find so interesting about them:
That's cool.
their love for the planet, their connection to the planet.
So different, exactly, like you're saying. Yeah, just so different than these other people. So appreciative,
Hmm.
you know.
It's this connection that no one else, no other race or house could ever have because this is something that generations of teachings and just trial and error, it's like what works, what doesn't. They're the ones that created that sand walk so that way they could safely traverse the dunes. And here's what I like about it is that they never once curse the planet for being so harsh on them. They don't curse the worms for killing some of their Fremen. I think they understand that this is an ecosystem. Everything is kind of reliant on each other.
Right, they respect it.
It's all balanced in a way. They have this deep admiration and respect for the worms, even though like the worms could fucking kill them. They could kill them just as easy as they
Mhm.
can kill the Fremen enemies. They develop this understanding about the planet, this understanding about the worms, and they're able to use that to their advantage. And I thought that was really
Right.
cool.
They're very connected. There's a symbiosis between all the beings on the planet, right? It's like, so that when they fight, when they ride and they fight with these worms on their side, it's like they work together to continue to maintain this symbiosis and to eradicate, or at least prevent, or try to prevent anybody from fucking that up,
Hmm.
like the Harkonnen have, and anybody else who's just mining their planet from its natural resources.
Returning to Sage Tabor, they're able to witness it get blown to pieces, and I think they even go in and kind of mop up the rest of them, right? So there's no survivors, and
Out of commission.
yeah, completely. So Paul and company, they are forced to flee to the south. That's what ultimately ends up making him go south with his mom. They almost get discovered by the Harkonnen. Had they gotten back sooner, they probably would have been dead.
Yeah, yeah.
Arriving south, he finally goes through with the whole Bene Gesserit ritual of ingesting that mysterious fluorescent blue water of life. And what this does is this unlocks his true potential. And I know you have a lot to say about this. You even drew a little picture.
Oh, that's right. It isn't even my final form.
You
This isn't even my final form.
know what you should do is you should take a scan
A
of
photo,
those.
send it to you, and then you upload it to the
We're
fucking to
gonna
the
we're gonna post these, yeah.
Instagram. Holy shit, that's hilarious. And then people can laugh at how many times I misspelled fucking Rotha during this conversation alone. Where is it at, Rotha? It's like up there. I wrote it down and I was like, fight with an A, and I was like, no, it's oh yeah, you
Feyd-Rautha,
wrote the spelling out in your notes. So I looked at it and I was like, oh, okay.
yeah. Hey, close
It
enough.
didn't matter at the time, dude. I was like, it's close enough. It's R. So like, even in the, I'll send a photo, but like, even in the out of the way microphone. Even in
Dude, I love
my
these
note,
illustrations.
I wrote R there for Feyd-Rautha and M. I was like, look, at the end of the day, all that matters that I need to know is which one's Muad'Dib here, you know?
So M is Muad'Dib because it says Messiah next to
Yeah.
it. So I wasn't sure if that was for Messiah.
Oh, right. Well, that's so then you talking about that point with regard to the them using Leia Sedu's character to bring about the other Messiah potentially. I ended up writing when that happened, as this was all developing, I eventually was like, when she said that, I added to that note of just these two characters being drawn here as stick figures.
Gotcha.
I then was like, Messiah, like just question mark with like, just the M was capitalized, but then when he fucking anyway, when things get nuts, I was like, no, the Messiah is Muad'Dib for sure, exclamation point, instead of like, what, the question mark, this guy for
Oh,
real.
dude, that's awesome.
So it makes sense to me.
Dude, we have to immortalize those illustrations. We got to post them.
All right. And it's in my bullet journal of all things. It's not even with like my fancy, the fancy pens you see me at work with, dude.
Right.
Needless to say, I'll take a photo of it and we'll upload those. But yeah. What did I have there?
Oh yeah. What did you think of this whole water of life and going through with the Bene Gesserit ritual?
Oh, that's right, dude. Actually, that's been like on my mind since we had since we talked about that. Yeah, I was thinking like any messianic story, and I haven't read Joseph Campbell's book. What's that one called? The hero. It's something about the hero with 1,000 faces, I think is what it's called. Hero with 1,000 faces. But he, in essence, maps the hero's journey. And what do you call it? What am I getting at with that? Hero's journey and messianic. So some of the hero's journeys that he, these thousands of whatever stories. One of them would be this messianic story where a la Jon Snow, for instance.
Okay.
He dies, and when he's reborn, he's a different person, kind of thing. But he's more elevated, having had this experience, this near-death experience. He comes back with a different kind of knowledge, but also
mentality.
Perspective, exactly. He's got a different perspective, much the way that Gunnar does, having had that crazy experience in his life, dude.
Sure.
Our friend Gunnar was in a terrible car accident. Thank God he survived, and he's okay. But gave him a different perspective on things, and he's even talked about it, and I've seen the change in him as well. So having this sort of and for him is this near-death experience, and for these characters in these movies, these real death experiences, and obviously the biblical one with Jesus dying, we sort of have to die to. I was saying before, like in this life, I've read and I'm learning is like, you really do have to die to your old self, so that or your old way of thinking about the world, in order for you to become who it is you're meant to be. So seeing this, I cried in the movie. I was so, even now I'm getting choked up just thinking about it. It was just like, man, that's such a cool depiction of an inner journey for ourselves versus these thoughts. You can always see the Harkonnen as these negative thoughts. If you wanted to, we could change the whole thing around. It could turn into the whole Inside Out movie, right? That Pixar film with emotions. But having said all that, it's this is this is kind of like that crux. This is everything that's been leading up to this moment. He was being prepared for this very first scene, or the second scene rather, because the first scene's him with the dream and he's in bed. The second scene is with him at the table with his mom, and she teaches him to use a voice because she believes that he's the one, and she's training him to be.
And these are Bene Gesserit techniques. Like, this isn't even something that he's supposed to be learning.
Right, right. So he's being who he's meant to be, and he's embracing the journey. Like, it was, I don't know. It's just crazy how things have just worked out
Oh yeah.
all along. But he's accepting it.
But I don't think it's a simple like, all right, I guess, I got some free time, let's go ahead and do this. Like, we have to keep
Right.
in mind that no male has ever survived this test because it's toxic to all humans, but the Bene Gesserit, they are able to survive this because they've been trained to manipulate the molecules of their body and to be able to cancel out poisons and such. So that's why they're able to survive it. But women are the only ones trained to be Bene Gesserits, and you have to have mastered that skill to become a Reverend Mother. And that's what happens. That's
Mm.
how Jessica was able to become a Reverend Mother, is by going through this water of life ritual.
But what's funny is it's like it's its own experience. Like you don't know you're ready until you just fucking do it, and you either die or you don't, because like you have to figure it out. And only having gone through that very specific experience of having to put your training to the test,
Mm-hmm.
a la Feyd
Rotha.
Rautha, putting your training to the test.
Mm. It's interesting to think that in order to ascend in life in general, like just in this world, in order for them to ascend into like a higher being, people have to drink this liquid that both actively kills people and is only produced by killing a living creature. Do you know how they actually create this water of life?
Yeah, exactly. Tell the folks.
The water of life is created by drowning baby sandworms in water. They can't breathe underwater, and I think it's actually toxic to them. And then as they die, this liquid is expelled from their body, and that is what's collected, resulting in the water of life.
Hmm.
Pretty savage.
It's interesting though that, man, that's such an interesting. Again, this is why this book is just intrigues me to no end. I'm like, it's one of those kind of itches now that I have to like scratch. It's like I'm compelled to. It's like a compulsion, even where I have to go. I really have to know more about this because I'm so curious with the whole philosophy behind that. Because you know, alchemists, what were they really doing? They weren't just trying to make gold. The whole point of alchemy was to create the elixir of life, the fountain of youth. So we've all, as humans, we don't want to die, you know. Not all of us, you know. Some of us are like, oh man, just take me now. It's crazy. I got bills to pay and shit. I feel that, but yeah, right. You think of these stories, and water has been the thing that is like, we always think of water as being refreshing ourselves, and we wash in it and everything, and we're clean. And for us to for the water of life itself to be sort of this paradox where you have to you drink it, and while water is life-giving, you think about water like we can go several days without eating it. We can't go for very long without water. We can't certainly go several days without water. So we need it's supposed to preserve us, and yet drinking this thing that's called the water of life kills you, or nearly kills you at the very least.
It's supposed to kill you, and if you survive, then you pass the test.
Right, exactly. You come back, right? So you have to have died. You have to have died. And then you come back, and when you do, you're not the same anymore at all. You have received both, all, you've survived death, and that's in itself its own experience, suffering to that point. as they did.
Mm.
Let alone the information, the deluge of information that they then get access to, having died. Now they get the history as the Reverend Mother. So she, again, this test is like so interesting and beautiful. Huh? Eric waves. And so I don't know. It's just interesting. So for him to die, I was like, where was I going with that? Oh yeah. So for him to die and then be brought back, yeah, it was so impactful. And then I didn't quite understand why it was he needed that drop. What was that about?
I didn't get that until I was reading into it too. So the idea behind that is it's part of the prophecy. So it's prophesied that a Fremen woman is to be the one to help bring forth the Kwisatz Haderach. That could potentially be Chani, but obviously she's kind of brought in and she's like, what the fuck you guys doing? You know, like, I can't believe you let Paul go through with all this shit. So she almost walks out, but she can't leave Paul like that because Paul's like fucking like comatose, basically like barely living, you know? And Jessica doesn't look concerned. She's just kind of like, because she knows what needs to be done and she expects Chani to
She
go
can't
through with it.
act.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Paul's just, he's not dead. He's just, his body's in a state where the vital signs are so low that it's undetectable. So it seems like he's flatlined. So what she needs to do essentially is she needs to mix her tear with the water of life and press it to his lips to revive him. If she walks away, then he would die. And so she's the one that has to save him. And by saving him, she helps change him.
Fuck. I did. Thank you for explaining that. That was a burning question in the back of my mind. I was like, so that all happened so fast. I must have missed something because I even.
I was confused as fuck too, honestly. When I was watching, I was like, what the fuck just happened?
Yeah, I have the finger, him dead,
Oh,
his
that's
hair,
the finger.
the finger with the drop.
That is funny. Oh my god.
Oh man.
That is great.
Yeah, so yeah, that's why I was like, man, I gotta. This is important, and I'm not understanding why it was so important for her to be the one to give that to him.
Yeah.
You know.
And I don't think it would have been fine with just dipping your finger in the water of life and like pressing into his lips. I think it needed to be like a Fremen woman's tear as well. And that was like the perfect mixture to be able to basically resuscitate him, jolt him back to life.
You know what's interesting is I was just talking to Easton, and you mentioned tear. I was just talking to Easton now about just before this actually, about tears, and about how tears are it was like a YouTube video or something like that. But tears are composed of the chemicals that your brain releases when you think of that sad memory, whatever it was caused you to think of that. Those tears, the chemicals, it's all in that tear.
What the fuck? Really?
Yeah. So think about that. That tear mixed with her tear mixed with the water of life. Oh, that's interesting, dude. That's really interesting. The tear itself is composed of the material from that planet. It very much is Fremen. So he's been adopted as a Fremen, has a Fremen name now, Muad'Dib Utsul, right? And that's the thing that consummated it. Think about that. Consummatum est. It is consummated. It's hard not to draw correlations to Catholicism. In Catholic tradition, in the Mass, in the Holy Mass, the priest, when he consecrates the precious blood, he also puts in water. He drops in water to the wine, and it's only it would not be consecrated. It would not be actually consecrated
Without that.
if he did not drop. Yes, without that form. The form has to be there. So the form of the water having to be with the wine in that order and with these words said at this specific time.
It's so funny because it's only a drop, so it seems like it's insignificant, but that is like the most important part.
Precisely because blood and water poured from Jesus' side when he was pierced with the spear as he hung crucified. So you have to have both of those things, as that's exactly what happened. That having been said, it's like she followed the form. It happened. These things happened. She willingly participated. No one forced her to do this. It all happened with her free will.
Right.
No one, right? So she did it, and she booped him into existence again.
Right on the lips.
Right on the lips, right on the pow, right on the kisser.
So what happens to Paul after this whole situation? He's a different person, man. Like
Very
he's
different.
unlocked some new
His eyes
gifts.
are bluer, for
Yeah.
sure. He has a certain presence about him that he didn't have before, a certain knowing, a confidence that before he was he was confident in his skills and that his willingness to help others, but now there's a sort of just like there's a leadership in him, just leadership qualities. He exudes it now.
He has greater sight of the past, present, and future all at the same time. And that's why I think in a lot of ways he becomes more, I don't know, I guess he's less present, you know, like he seems like he's distant from a lot of people because he's
Yes.
seeing all these things all the time. And I think it's also difficult for him to understand when he's actually in the timeline currently.
Yeah. That's it. You saying that just completely reminded me of a movie I also saw recently, for the second time, of course. It's such a damn good movie. Arrival. Dude, Arrival. It's like that kind of living in, you're constantly, am I in the present? Am I in the past? Am I in the future? And it's all done so instantaneously for him.
Yeah.
He's still learning it all.
Right, exactly. On top of this great ability that he just inherited, this also allows him to be able to communicate with his sister in the future. It's here where she tells Paul that she loves him as an adult. I mean, she's not even born yet.
As an adult, oh, it's so moving. Just that one brief scene that she's in, gosh, it's so stirring because up until now,
Played by Anya Taylor-Joy.
Anya Taylor-Joy, oh my gosh, she's so fucking phenomenal. Yeah, but and so unique looking. So yeah.
Right.
Anyway, up until now, she's almost seemed antagonistic because of the fact that her messages are coming through her mom and they're coming through so forcefully. And she seems to be telling him what to do all the time. And the sister, the daughter, she'd be like, your sister says, why are you doing this? Wants to know why. Why aren't you going with them? That kind of thing.
Right.
But then, so she seems hard, like a hard person. What's his name in Game of Thrones? Is his sister? What is dead may not be killed, or whatever. What is dead may never die. How she's kind of like this kind of forceful person, like she wants things done that way, and yet you see this depiction of her, and she's not at all like what I at least thought in her mother's womb she was. She's not like, she didn't seem pushy at all. She sheds that tear, and it's so symbolic too, because they're on Arrakis, so there's that desert there, and so for her to shed that tear means something too. It's meaningful. It's love. It's giving.
Right.
Generous.
It's very intentional for sure.
Exactly that. So to have that understanding that it's coming from this person, it's coming from this place. These messages that his mom's been giving him is from her, and she's not at all a hard person, and she loves him. Yeah, it's just really, really powerful.
Couple things here, yeah, because it's like this is a lot to unpack, right? So,
oh yeah.
Also, is the sister's name Alia? Was that her name? I was trying to remember what it was. I think it was Alia. But how did she know that Paul was going to see that exact moment? Was Paul actually there with her in the future, or did she know that Paul was going to be able to see this moment in time, and so she used it as a way of communicating to him in the past?
Say that again. It is Alia, by the way. I totally looked it up.
So I don't know if it's a future memory or if it's just a vision of him seeing her in the future, and then she
Oh,
used it as a way of like communicating with the past.
yes. Whoa. Crazy powerful. Yeah, that's really interesting. Man, Frank Herbert. This is just so genius, so brilliant. It's just thinking about that, working in the psychology and the dreams and all that.
You're saying that this is Future Arrakis. Is it possible that it's a different planet, or is it like assumed that this actually is Arrakis? Because I mean, sure, it has sand, it has a beach or whatever, but like, I think what makes it more impactful is that there's water. That's the most important thing of this vision, right? Is that there's water on it.
Right, exactly. Maybe it's not meant to be taken literally, like you were saying. Maybe it's supposed to be symbolic, and it's more like it's a journey, right? If nothing else, it's not like the thing started with him just already with the ocean crashing down on the beach. He walked into it. In some sense, it's like him moving in his dream is like the journey he's having to take from the desert to the ocean. Who knows where he will lead them? Again, like you said, it may be, it may not be literal. It may just be a symbolic idea of wherever they end up needing to go or whatever. And I don't know, or maybe there is just one portion of water on the planet that they can all
Or maybe it hasn't been found. Yeah.
right, and that cracking it open will lead to this gushing overflow of abundance, right? If nothing else, seeing going from like squeezing out little, little drops of water and taking water from another being, and then um going to just the ocean, just where else, just fucking shit tons of water. It's just abundance,
Right.
abundance. If nothing else, even if it's not water, it's abundance of something.
And I think they kind of briefly touched on the possibility of water being on Arrakis, but it's always kind of believed that they have to terraform Arrakis in order to achieve that. So
Hmm.
I don't know. I mean, this could be a possibly partially terraformed Arrakis that now has an ocean.
Oh, right, right. If you build it, the water will come.
Right. Exactly.
A la Field of Dreams.
You know what's actually kind of cool too was I also remember Paul talking about, he was describing the ocean to Chani. She's lived on Arrakis her whole life. She has no idea what the fuck an ocean looks like, what it is, what that means. She was all like, "So you can like dive into it?" Yeah, like you can fully submerge yourself. I was just thinking like you would have no idea what that sensation would be like being on Arrakis.
Yeah, the sensation. Right, right. They haven't, none of them's touched that pool. It's so sacred. All they do is just pour the body water.
Hmm.
So yeah, never having just, oh my gosh, crazy to think of that.
Do you also know what that would mean? Like, let's say if there was water, a large body of water on Arrakis, that would basically destroy the spice production because, as I was saying before, the worms cannot survive in water. It's toxic to them. They
Right,
can't breathe in it. So
exactly.
if the worms die, the spice is gone. It's kind of like in order to achieve this paradise, you have to destroy what's already there.
Hmm. And perhaps it itself is being elevated. It's reaching its other form. So maybe it's only this form as it is now, because of the reason, because of the circumstances with there being no water tapped into. Perhaps once those die, although we may see it as a bad thing, that, oh no, these things that they've created this really tight relationship with these worms and the spice going away, gosh, what would that mean? And yet it's like, well, what would be better for these people in the end? Would and what other creatures would be created that maybe, or that are already living, that, once there's water, will in the sand will evolve or something. I don't know.
Mm,
Who knows what will take the place of the worms, but there could be something else. And
sure, sure. So, final thing with the whole water of life situation, Paul also discovers a revelation about his own mother, Lady Jessica. She is the daughter of one Baron Vladimir Harkonnen, making Paul half Atreides, half Harkonnen.
dun dun dun.
This house that he has so much hatred for is actually family now. Crazy.
Yeah, exactly. And he had said it earlier, like he said, basically he was saying, you guys have been fighting against these guys for decades. You guys have been fighting the Harkonnen for decades. We've been fighting them for centuries. And it's like, little did you know,
Yeah, exactly.
you were on the other side of half of your family at least was on the other side of that fight, but crazy.
New and improved Paul, he goes to that big meetup of the religious Fremen people. As this new person, he kind of galvanizes the fundamentalists by displaying his prescient abilities, right? Like he reveals the thoughts and little
Yes.
known details about those random people in the crowd.
Yes, exactly.
But I don't know. It seems like as he becomes more and more like the Kwisatz Haderach, Chani is kind of like, I don't know. She's kind of being turned off from all that. Like this isn't the person that she fell in love with.
She said to him, as long as you never change, she said earlier, as long as
Yep.
you don't change, as long as you say the same person that you are now, I'll always love you or something like that. I'll always be with you.
Right. And little did she know
That she would bring about this.
this change. Yeah. Oh man. To Chani's dismay, Paul declares himself the Lisan al-Gaib, which is basically the same thing as the Kwisatz Haderach, but
Hmm.
that's for the Fremen people. And he intends to challenge Emperor Shaddam. He's going straight for the big dog.
He's gonna kick some ass.
Mm-hmm. This is actually kind of cool too because Princess Irulan, she is told by the Bene Gesserit Reverend Mother Gaius Helen Mohiam that which is like the Reverend Mother for the Emperor, right? And on their side, Gaius Helen Mohiam, she was the one that advised the Emperor to have House Atreides annihilated, as she felt that they had become increasingly difficult to control.
Now I wonder what she saw. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
What is she talking about? What's going on? What's going on?
They need to be wiped out.
Right. Out of
You
commission.
just have someone that's just like snaps their finger, and that's really it. Now your family's gone because of that, because of this
And they can,
bitch.
because of this bitch. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of, again, drawing similarities to Lord Varys in some sense. Kind of get that sense from them, though a little bit more like egotistical, like the power
Hmm.
has really gone to their head. But it's
Oh,
just, this is a
totally.
crazy revelation, dude. Like this whole time we thought this guy's heartless, and yet honestly seems really just feeble.
When you look at it, it's like you think that he's the one controlling the strings, but who's controlling his strings? That's what you gotta think about.
Precisely, precisely. He's given control over his future to these people, thinking they have his best interest at heart.
Hmm. Oh yeah, totally. And it's interesting that you're describing it as like she let the power get to her head, because the whole point of their order is to achieve this collective goal, right? For everyone, for
Hmm.
humanity, especially for the Bene Gesserits. But the fact is that they kind of have personal stakes in this.
Right. It's almost like they think that they know best. And here she's just been, she's being challenged by the very person who's just so, this Harkonnen daughter, you know, of Vladimir.
Vladimir, yeah.
Power tends to corrupt, and absolute power corrupts absolutely.
Absolutely. It's kind of cool. I like that it's not black and white.
Yeah, I know.
There's a lot of gray area for all
Yeah.
sides.
Yeah. Gosh.
It's actually kind of apropos that Lisan al-Gaib, the self-proclaimed one now in Paul, he plans to challenge the Emperor because the Emperor, Princess Irulan, and Mohiam are actually on their way. Oh, along with the Sudakar, which are like the Imperial Guard or whatever. They're on
Mm.
their way to Arrakis at an undisclosed location to meet with the Baron and the rest of House Harkonnen to discuss some business, right?
Hmm.
This is like the perfect time for everything to go down. Paul predicted this meeting, and he takes advantage of it. He launches a massive military strike. And this actually might
Brilliant.
be my favorite part, well, one of the favorite parts of the entire film. This is definitely what I want to use as the thumbnail as well, because there's like that huge explosion, right? And you just see the silhouette of Paul
Yeah.
with like the wind, and that huge explosion in the background, and that was just such a cool shot.
I thought so too. I thought so too. I thought it was brilliant that they blew out that whole hillside, and it was. I thought it was just genius that it just was such a throwaway comment, like, "Oh no, they're protected. We're protected on all sides by these hills. We're fine here."
Yeah.
And it's like not much was said of it. Not a big deal. Like foreshadowing. It was just
Hmm.
like, "Oh no, we're." It was almost so stated as a matter of fact, and then just like blow, just like a pincer move. All of them just.
This is all desert power. They're using Arrakis to their advantage, right? So now you got this sandstorm that was just unleashed, and it's just like it's creating the smoke screen, and that allows them to get closer without being detected. Because right now they're just like, "Whoa, what the fuck just happened?" Everyone's just kind of disoriented. So now you got the sandstorm that's like blasting towards this like temple thing that they're meeting up at.
That's what it was. That's right. They blew out the wall. They're like, "Oh, we're protected by by that storm because we got the sand wall here. We got this big ass wall."
Oh, and
Right.
the anticipation of like what was about to emerge from it, because everyone's just kind of waiting quietly, and they're like, "What the fuck's about to happen?" The first thing you see are those three worms burst through, and they're like charging straight for them, and I was like, "Fucking sick!"
Yeah, dude.
I don't think we ever covered the whole sandworm ride.
We didn't. Yeah, yeah. That was part
Oh
of
man, that was my favorite part of the movie. That was so fucking
that
cool.
part was fucking sick. I was so tripping on how they were able to film all that final test. I drew that. I drew that piece there. And then as whatever they call those things, the things that bring them the little stomper, you
Oh
put
yeah,
it in
yeah,
on top of the
the
sand and it
little
like
thumper thing.
clamps.
Hmm.
Yeah, thumper thing, and then yeah, that's the last one.
Looks a little bit like a penis, but
It totally does. Totes my goats does.
I
Absolutely.
like the
That thing is
illustration though.
phallic. A worm is gonna look phallic. Yeah, exactly.
It is phallic in just in
Totally.
nature.
Yeah, in nature it's gonna
The one-eyed worm.
but then right, the one exactly, the one-eyed worm. He strikes again. Uh Notice I also I that was also helpful for me too, doing the notes visually this way. I drew an arrow to that, having drawn the life
Oh,
of the water of life as it right there. I was like, oh yeah, that's right. This is where it comes from.
right, right. That's the link right there. Yeah, even the music, that was it was just so cool because you had the nervousness of him attempting to ride a worm for the first time, but on top of that, he accidentally, but it was kind of his destiny. He attracts like the largest sandworm that the Fremen have ever seen. And so he has to fucking learn how to ride that shit.
Right.
And I love how the camera's like right behind him and it like goes through that journey with him, right? It's not just like a wide shot. You fall down into the dune with Paul and you can't see
It's
shit.
you're in it.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly, exactly. You're feeling what he feels. Oh, it was filmed so well.
I was telling you actually at work that I love that shot where it's a close up on his foot and like he's kneeling down on the surface of the worm, and he has like one hook in or whatever, and he's like trying to like brace himself, and
Yeah,
he gets the other one in. He realizes that he's like, wait, I got this. And then that's when he
yeah,
stands up and he gets that confidence to just like fucking like control this giant beast.
yeah,
And
yeah.
that's when it has that triumphant music as he's like standing up from that kneeling position. And I fucking loved that.
Oh
That gave me
yeah.
goosebumps, dude, watching that.
Dude, same. And then he throws it that further distance to just get that much of a better grip on it.
Yeah,
Like he does a little grappling, just man,
fucking loved it.
dude, that was powerful. It was powerful. I'm almost I'm really kind of regretting going to the 4D experience because man, that sand is awful.
All up in your mouth.
I was just like spitting it out. I was like, you guys, I mean, there was the 4D thing was hand drawn on the movie poster, and I realized later that's what they were throwing sand. It wasn't even like projected. There's a dude there with a box of it.
I'm still getting sand out of my ass. It gets everywhere.
Yeah, dude, it's everywhere.
So yeah, you got the three worms that just like shoot out of that little like sand storm or whatever, and this surprise attack allows them to easily overcome the Sudakar and all the defenses. Right? They just get fucking annihilated. They don't even put up a fight at all.
No.
And Paul gets to finally meet his grandpa. Right?
Aw. Yeah, yeah. He tripped and falled over.
So interesting to see this powerful figure get taken out so easily because he just walks up. There's no one there to really stand against Paul. Like they just let him right on through, and he walks up and he's just like, "Hey, I just wanted to say hi. Nice to meet you." Shank right in the throat. Yep,
Yeah. Right in it. Kind of works it around a little, make sure, it's good. It's in there. It's firm.
it's in there snug,
Yes. Nice and snug. Yeah.
and that's how the Baron is taken out.
Gramps goes out. Yeah.
He doesn't go out swinging or anything. No blaze of glory for him.
Not with a bang, but with a whimper.
This is also where Emperor Shaddam and his entourage are taken captive. Dude, you know who was on one? Gurney. He was like out for blood, right? Raban was like, I'm
Oh,
getting the fuck out of here. So he's making a
yeah,
run for it.
yeah.
And Gurney was like, hell no, not this
Hell
time.
no. He said, I'm your Huckleberry.
Damn. We already knew this. We already knew Raban wasn't really much of a fighter or anything like that. He was just kind of like a big bitch. And Gurney fucking took his ass out.
He did. Drax, he was not.
Mm-mm.
No, he got his ass handed to him pretty quickly, actually.
Oh yeah. I think Raban was that character that he was annoying to have around, and he just complained all the time. He was just bitching, right? And he was just like, finally, someone just shut him up for good.
Yeah, yeah. Put an end.
So in this final, is this the climax of the movie or?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay,
Definitely.
we're in the little area. It's almost like a throne room looking thing.
Mm-hmm.
Paul, he kind of tells Chani that he'll always love her.
Yeah, that's
Oh,
the
this was kind of heartbreaking, but man, this is in multiple ways. So you got Paul. He definitely seemed sincere when he told Chani this, but he was like, I'll always love you no matter what happens. And then he goes and challenges Emperor Shaddam for the throne, then demands Princess Irulan's hand in marriage right after that.
mm-hmm.
Right after he got done telling Chani, like, hey, I'll always love you. Anyway, let's get this marriage going.
Let's do this already. Stop popping out some kids for me.
Damn. And Chani was fucking
No.
fuming, but she sticks around because she wants to see what's going down with all this. Like, what's the plan here?
It's like she doesn't have the vision that he has. She doesn't know what he knows,
Right.
and I think that's why what he says is truly heartfelt. Like, because he says something like, "As long as I have breath, I'll always love you," and it's just like, dang, that's his person. That's really the person he really connects with. But he knows as a matter of well, for the sake of everyone,
This needs to be done.
this needs to be done, and it's not necessarily that he wants to, but it has to be.
But that showed me too was ever since the Water of Life ritual, this hasn't been the Paul that we knew since the first movie. But him saying that was like a brief glimpse of the old Paul. He's
Yes.
still in there somewhere.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
That was sad. Oh
Yeah.
man. And also around this time, the Great Houses, they've also arrived in orbit of Arrakis. So they're kind of there just hanging out in space. I guess the Baron had summoned them for the meeting as well. Obviously, that whole meeting went to shit. Emperor Shaddam chooses a trial by combat with Feyd-Rautha as his champion. Paul's gonna be his own champion, so let's fucking go.
Hold my beer. Hold my water of life.
Now it seems like Paul has his hands full with Feyd-Rautha. So I don't know if
Yeah.
do you think that he already knew the outcome, or was he playing it up? Like, how do you think this fight went down?
I I think oh shit. How do I put it? Damn. It's almost as though I think he I want to say he did the best he could. He's a smart guy though. He also I don't know. It's not like he would give him that one, right? When he gets fucking stabbed himself, you're like, "Oh shit."
If you can avoid it and still kill the other guy, why wouldn't you do that? That's what you
And
would
I
think.
guess I get right, but I guess well, here's my thought about that. After he sits there, after he sits back up, Chani left after she resurrected him and everything, the tear with the water of life, and he sits up and he's talking to his mom. It's just the two of them, and he's like, I see it, and he's like sitting up. He's like with his hand, he does this thing. I see 1,000, like 1,000 different futures,
Mhm.
and I see there's one narrow one where we win. And
Right.
so to me, I'm like, he's charting that narrow path. There's no reason why he would deviate from it. Oh my gosh,
You
I'm
too.
scared. My room. Just kidding. It's just my lights turning off. Where were we? Um, the narrow path, and so everything he's doing is to achieve that goal. He doesn't have to mention every time that that's what his goal is this narrow path. We just know there is a narrow path. That's the only way for him to win. He's going it. Therefore, even breaking the love of his life's heart, because he knows this is the only path where everybody ends up relatively happy. Fuck the Harkonnen.
In order for her to survive and be happy, right?
Right. It's for their greater good. He's really working for their greater good. It's really not him. He's almost like a Frodo in this situation where he's really doing the thing to look out for those who aren't strong enough to overcome their own egos, you know.
It's his burden to bear, huh?
Right. That's how I see. So that being the case, since he's the only one who sees this narrow path and how it's got to go, um even this, like, I got to imagine this is a narrow path. This fight, his cousin's good. So therefore, if he got stabbed, it's like, to me, I'm thinking that's the only way for him to win. It was the only way he saw that he would have been able to win. He had to take He had to take some damage in order to win.
Take one for the
Ultimately,
team, huh?
lose the battle to win the war.
I wonder if like 1,000 scenarios, if most of them he would have lost. The one scenario where he actually did win, he had to lower his guard by getting stabbed, and then that allows him to be able to get that coup de grace.
Right, because ooh, because he's Bene Gesserit. He also knows, I think, in some maybe he doesn't. I don't know, but he's tapped into everything that they know.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe it stands to reason that he would know that his cousin's weaknesses are desire and his ego. And so maybe him giving him that small window of yeah, he puffs his ego up enough to make him think he's won.
He's like, wipe yourself off, you're bleeding.
Yeah, wipe yourself off, you're bleeding, and he stabs him, and he's like, wipe yourself off, you dead.
You did.
You
Love
dead,
that line. That's so corny.
Oh, that's so good. That's so good. I love it. Wipe yourself off, you dead. So corny and so of that era. It's just like,
but it's like it's a line that like works so perfect for Chris Tucker.
Exactly.
So yeah, Feyd-Rautha, he's out, man. Down for the count. Paul emerges as the victor of this duel.
Boom.
So what that means is about that throne.
Yeah.
This is where Irulan, I think she fears for her dad's life here. So that's when she like inserts herself between both of them, and she's just like, okay, you know, I'll marry you. I'll do whatever it is that you're requesting, on the condition that my father lives. He was walking over there, and I think he was getting ready to take him out.
Oh yeah.
In order to kind of seal the deal, Shaddam has to kneel down and kiss Paul's House of Atreides ring. The rest of the great houses, they reject Paul's ascendancy to the throne. So Paul's like, all right, I guess we're going to war then. He orders the Fremen people to get ready because shit's about to hit the fan. Jessica and Alia, you know, they're still having like their little fucking like weird ass conversations with each other. And I think this is where they understand that this is the beginning of the Holy War, Muad'Dib's Holy War, the one that was prophesied. I don't know how to fucking say it. Is it prophesied?
You said it right. Prophesied, yeah.
This is fucking heartbreaking on multiple levels for Chani, and she refuses to bow to Paul, and you know, she storms out of the room, heading off into the horizon. Who knows what's going to happen there?
End scene.
And that is a wrap on Dune Part 2. If you made it to the end of our podcast, then you have been transformed into a grotesque guild navigator.
Lead me to the building. Yeah, exactly.
Any final thoughts or closing comments?
This movie did not disappoint. It was every bit as good as the first. It's hard to ever top the first movie, and yet somehow this one, man, the pacing, the plot, the character development. I loved, Austin Butler. You got to have a good antagonist, man, and he was sick. I was so proud. I was just like, man, this guy, saw him in Elvis, and he fucking made me cry. I was like, dude, he is a phenomenal actor, and I appreciated. It's funny because I saw that movie first, and then I ended up seeing Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Right,
and
that's where
I was like, I was like, oh shit, look at him, dude. Look at this guy. All right, mad respect for that guy, dude. So yeah, to see him with an opportunity like this, man, just makes me happy. And he's good.
He is. Good. He really is. Yeah. And also, apparently, after Elvis, he had to have like a dialect coach because he couldn't stop talking like Elvis.
Oh, snap.
Yeah, he was like so fucking immersed that. And a lot of people have kind of mentioned this too. Like, if you see him in interviews before and after Elvis, he kind of like still has a little bit of that like imitation, that Elvis imitation. Drawl. Yeah, that drawl in his voice. Yeah. He can't turn it off.
Wow, that's crazy. That's what I've thought about that too, though. Like I've thought about dialect, because like you have people who suddenly slip back into. Well, I was just watching a video on Instagram that was like this woman who was in China trying she asked for rice, and she was in a region where they don't do rice. They actually make noodles. It's like really, really well known for noodles. But it's funny because she was speaking in Mandarin to these women that she was ordering these noodles from, and it sounded very similar. I mean, they understood at the very least what she was saying. It didn't seem like she was butchering the language. And yet when she spoke in English, it was this very thick Australian accent.
What?
And I was just like, wow, to know that it's just interesting that that's just she's comfortable speaking that way. You know what
Right,
I mean? That's
right.
just kind of wild. Like, oh,
It's
you
cool.
could speak like this, but you're from there, and it's beautiful. But it's so interesting. I thought to myself, wow, if you speak of another language enough, and you know what I mean, if you're around that kind of thing enough, does it have an effect on you? And that's interesting that with Austin Butler it did. So
Hmm.
no, man. I mean, just the cast was fucking brilliant. In addition to Austin Butler, just everybody else was just phenomenal. So yeah, well worth going to see. I can't wait to see it again. Definitely want to see it at TCL, aka Grauman's Chinese Theater, or formerly Grauman's Chinese Theater.
There was a lot of hype behind this movie, and I know that it took you a couple weeks to see it after it was released. So hopefully nothing was spoiled, and hopefully it wasn't overhyped for you.
No, and I really just I kind of just waited for it. I held my breath. Nobody spoiled anything. I went in just kind of like hoping it would be as good, or almost assuming that it would be as good, and then seeing how things develop, dude. Ah, man, crazy! It's crazy how well they make this ensemble cast work together. How well these people just jive. I
Oh
mean,
yeah.
I don't know.
And I wonder if, I mean, I can't help but wonder if this is Denis Villeneuve. This is just the environment that he cultivates when he
Right, bringing
creates his movies. Yeah, like he creates this environment that the actors are able to thrive in.
and collaborate and just yeah, absolutely as artists. So yeah, I closing thoughts. It may be better than the first. I don't know. I really, really liked this movie.
It's so funny that you say that because those were my exact thoughts. I was in the same boat. I was thinking it's going to be very difficult to top the first one. I thought the first one was fantastic. And yet somehow Denis was able to outdo himself with this one. This film was dope, hands down. I fucking
Yes.
loved it. You know, the first movie, it was laying the foundation, so there could
Hmm.
be some parts where it was kind of slow, but what I really liked about this movie is that it was able to significantly move the plot forward. You know,
Yes.
as second movies in trilogies tend to do, because the first movie is always kind of laying the groundwork, and then the second movie is usually kind of the best in the trilogy because we already know where we're going. It's just nothing but like awesome story, awesome action, all that good stuff. And the third movie in a trilogy has the daunting task of having to wrap things up. So that's usually why
Yeah.
that one isn't thought of as highly as the first two.
Right. Right. Still haven't seen Godfather Part 3, but probably for that reason.
I'm just curious to see where things go from here. You know, I haven't read any of the books, but I've heard from Denis. He said multiple times in interviews that the third movie is going to cover the second book, which is Dune Messiah. So if you read that book, then you at least have an idea of where it's going. I have no fucking clue. My questions
Hmm.
are: will Paul eventually turn into the bad guy? Perhaps
That's my thought too.
you either die a hero or you live long enough for everyone to see you become the villain, right?
Right.
As Harvey Dent said it. And then
Yeah.
what's going to happen to the Paul Chani Irulan triangle?
Yep.
You know, what's going to happen there? That's going to be complicated. What's going to be the fate of Arrakis? You know, we're talking about like it's possibly going to be terraformed and it's going to get an ocean, all that stuff, and it's going to fuck up the spice production because of the worms. And I don't know what's going to
Hmm.
happen with all that.
Right. Right.
Another thing to note with the Dune series as well, I don't know if that was also portrayed in the books or if this was just kind of the Villeneuve spin of the story, but these two movies, they've had some really powerful female characters, and I thought it was a lot of fun to see that.
Phew, man. Brilliant performances. Truly like stirring.
They are vital to the story,
Absolutely. Absolutely. Powerful. Dude, yeah. It's a beautiful balance.
very much so. And I think in a lot of ways, they might be some of the more interesting characters overall.
Right. Right. Definitely the more complex, the women.
Let me ask you this. What is your favorite scene in Dune Part 2?
I think my favorite part, yeah, I'm gonna say my favorite part was the black and white. I fucking
Mm,
loved the planet Harkonnen, dude. I
that
don't
was
know.
cool.
Just that whole battle. I just was so taken by how well filmed. That just yeah, it just got me going. And I remember commenting to Easton afterward. I was like, "Ha! They beautiful. How the hell? It's just wonderful that this was inserted into this movie. That on this planet, that these conditions are as such, are this way. I don't think. I asked her. I said, "Do you think that this was just filmed this way stylistically because just for the hell of
Just
it?
for the
It doesn't
effect.
seem
Yeah.
like it was arbitrary. Yeah, this doesn't seem arbitrary. This seems like it's integral." And I said, one thing that makes me think that is the fact that I don't know if I missed the black sun, but or them even mentioning it, but I do remember seeing again that oil splatter. I was like, they're in a weird place, and I think that has something to do with why the sun looks the way it does. But oh my gosh, dude, because the old movies, before color started, before it came out, you had to be as a director or as a cinematographer, the lighting had to be, that's what you really told the story with so much was shadows and things like that.
Mhm.
You had to use it more intentionally. You had to be aware of the way shadows were cast, and so you could use them to dramatic effect, or to make sure that they don't distract at the very least. So there's a beauty in the artistry in setting up shots that are in black and white, and those shots with Leia Sadu were just so beautiful. It just felt like, just wow, the way the light hit her face, and then even just seeing the gladiator, it's just so cool. You think of the movie Gladiator, you think of Russell Crowe, and you think of being in the Coliseum and stuff, and it's just, yeah, it's badass.
It almost kind of gave it like a noir feel.
Yes, noir, precisely, exactly that. Yeah, yeah. See, I'm no good for you. I'm no good for you. But Frank, I need you. Nah, you don't need me. I'm nothing but trouble. Scram, kid. Get out of here.
It would have been a way different movie.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, I was watching this interesting clip. I mean, this is like, I guess, part of the rabbit hole, the Duneverse. Someone was talking about. Do you remember what the ship looks like in Dune Part One when they go from Caladan to Arrakis? It kind of looks like a
Mm-mm.
cylinder, right?
Oh yeah,
And
oh
so that was
yeah.
their ship, and then they just their ships kind of like float out from the end of it. So I guess those things are called guide, or no, guild liners. They belong to the spacing guild, and those are where the guild navigators come from. So one, I found it was interesting that it looks like a worm in space.
Exactly. Yes, yes.
And then there's also like a shot that's, I think it's only like 3 seconds long. It kind of like pans around, and so instead of seeing like the side profile of it, you can kind of see like inside through the little tube. And on the other end, it looks like there's like a planet around it. You don't see a planet. So that's what they're mentioning, is that, is it possible that like that has to do with how they travel? Is that you're seeing where they came from through the spaceship? It's almost like a wormhole inside the ship.
Huh?
And so that like blew my mind. I was like, what the fuck?
What?
The
What?
ship almost acts as like its own wormhole, and maybe that's how it,
That's
it travels through
wild.
space. Fucking crazy. And that's like another reference to a worm in the series. It's so weird.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm digging it though.
Same.
Lastly, I would just like to say, not that I have anything against Christopher Walken, but I would be so fucking curious to see why he was chosen as the emperor, especially because like this role, it doesn't really require a lot of acting ability. You're just kind of there like reacting to
Sure.
things, right? So
Yeah.
really anyone could have been the emperor, but man, how amazing would it have been if Kyle MacLachlan had popped up as the emperor? I would have lost my shit, dude.
Bro, there would be tears and shit. At least for the
Especially
fans.
because it's like he was Paul Atreides in the original Lynch movie.
Wild. That would be so, that dude. Wow. I wonder if they even thought of that. That would have
Missed
been so
opportunity.
badass. Truly, because the thing is, as we know, the Emperor is basically playing like Dougie.
Oh man, he's been there. Kyle MacLachlan has done it all.
He's Thank you. That's all I'm saying. I'm just corroborating what you already put out there.
Dude, and the thing is, look, he's 65. I looked this up. He's 65 currently. He's old enough to play a distinguished character, but he's still young enough to give his performances some passion. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
I'm like, he straight up could have been the emperor. I think that would have been fucking dope.
Yeah. No offense to Chris Walken. Yeah, of course. But yeah, I think A little nod that way would have been.
It's not necessarily that like Walken couldn't play the role, but I think it's more or less like what Kyle MacLachlan means to the series.
Yeah, I agree. Almost
He
like a
has that pedigree.
yeah, and really an opportunity to give a nod to the first man who tried to take on the Herculean task of depicting Dune on film.
Oh yeah, definitely. I think it would be a lot of fun to go back and just kind of compare the two, because that's kind of what I was showing you. I was showing you clips of the
Yeah,
old movie, and like this is what this fight scene looked like. That was also in the first movie.
right.
Like the fucking blocky shields looked like ass, but
Yeah,
that was a product of its time.
right. They did the best they could at what they were given. I think you're right. I think it'd be a good one to watch.
But yeah, fucking loved it. I thought it was great. I think it edges out the top the first movie.
I'm gonna say I think for me it does too. So much is just yeah. This was what the first one was kind of leading you to. It's like, hey, here's you have to take the prereq of watching this film before you can really appreciate this film, and when you do that, you'll really yeah. So I agree.
Are you watching anything lately, film or TV, before we head out?
I'm always watching chess YouTube videos by Agad Mator. He's this he basically reviews chess games, both current and in the past from before, and analyzes them. And he just is so friendly when he does it. Anyway, I've actually watched him for years, and there was a doctor actually that I made a connection with one day when we were. This is like before. It's around. Was it around COVID? It was much quieter, for sure. I remember that. And anyway, long story short, we were chatting. I noticed that on his computer screen, he had exactly that same person's chess video on, and I said, "Oh, you like so and so?" And he's like, "Oh, I love watching." I was like, "What the heck? That's like so random." This guy, yeah. And so we got to talking, and then anyway, aside from that, just finished a show, that series called it's about the Golden State Killer. It's
Mm.
on HBO, I believe. Yeah, HBO Max, or Max rather. Right? I
That's the
don't
one you
know.
were telling me about, right? The other day.
Right. Yeah, it was really
What's it called?
I'll be gone in the night, or I'll be gone in the dark, something like that. Something he told. It's something he said to a victim. I'll be gone in the dark,
But the night is dark and full
but
of
the night
terrors.
is dark and full of terrors. So yeah, so that's what I finished most recently. Is kind of like a six parter. What about you? Have you watched anything?
Saw one movie actually recently in theaters. I don't know if it's still in theaters by the time this episode goes up, but most likely not, because I think it was a little bit of an edgier type of movie. Not
Oh,
necessarily something that appeals to the masses. But I saw Love Lies Bleeding,
Love Lies
and
Bleeding.
that's one with Kristen Stewart. It's like a bodybuilding kind of like thriller type of movie.
What the?
Not my favorite A24 film, but I liked it because it was unique. It was unique from like what's been coming out lately.
Sure.
The only thing I could really ask of A24 is like just let it be unique.
Same. I love it.
It's not always going to be home runs, but just keep it up. I love what they're doing over there.
Yeah, exactly. Keep the creative juices flowing.
Definitely. This is available wherever you get your podcasts. New episodes drop on the first Saturday of each month, 5 a.m. Pacific. If you like what you heard, please consider giving us a like, a thumbs up, subscribe. Always appreciated. Thank you
Hell
for
yeah.
listening and joining Michael and I. This has been Aflixionados Podcast, episode 38, Dune Part 2, and we will see you all next time on Arrakis.
Pow.